The Essence of Meditation. Preface. Not long after I began to learn meditation, I started writing down notes and articles to log my own experiences and discoveries. However, as I learned more and more about it, I came to realize that experience is very personal, which means that everyone's meditation experience may be different. But there is something that is always consistent and does not change from person to person, and that is the biological nature of meditation, which is what I was trying to discover as I wrote this book. In addition, the main purpose of this book is to discuss the essence of meditation, not to teach specific methods or techniques for practicing it. However, if you understand the essence of meditation, you will have a better idea of why there are so many different methods and techniques out there. You will also know if there is anything in common among those methods and techniques beneath the surface. Furthermore, you will understand which approach is best suited to you. And you will understand exactly which benefits meditation can bring to you and why. Moreover, the purpose of this book is to discuss the biological nature of meditation, not the philosophical and religious topics derived from it. That is because, just as the experience of meditation is highly personal, so too the philosophical reflections and religious perceptions that arise from meditation vary from person to person. More importantly, in my opinion, most of those philosophical and religious reflections and perceptions do not fundamentally contradict each other. Even when some of them are in conflict, there is nothing right or wrong, deep or shallow, about them. Furthermore, it is important to note that many of the opinions presented in this book, including those quoted from other authors, are primarily hypotheses and theories and should not be regarded as absolute facts or truths. Readers of this book should approach those hypotheses and theories with a skeptical mindset, being cautious about their validity. However, it is also crucial for them to maintain an open mind about those hypotheses and theories. As Arthur Schopenhauer wisely stated, all truth passes through three stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. Third, it is accepted as being self-evident. Finally, I would like to thank my parents, who not only gave me life, but also gave me a wonderful childhood. Even after I grew up and left my hometown, they still supported me and helped me both spiritually and materially. Also, just after I started writing down my meditation experiences, my father became my first reader. That was not only because I am his son, but, more importantly, my father is a Qigong lover, and his experience and knowledge in Qigong have inspired me and made me realize that Qigong and meditation are essentially the same, despite their apparent differences. Also, in one of his letters to me, my father wrote, "People's understanding of nature is still very limited at present. As long as you can break the superstitions about authorities, and keep searching for the truth, you will make progress in the end." I hope your articles can help or inspire some people. My father's feedback and encouragement gave me great motivation to continue writing more articles. The Essence of Meditation. Chapter 1, Awake Sleep. Meditation is an interesting topic and, at the same time, it is also mysterious. That is because human beings have been meditating for thousands of years. And during those thousands of years, countless people and organizations gave meditation many different definitions, explanations, and meanings. But most of those observations and understandings were from philosophical or religious views, which added mysteries, more or less, here and there. Now let's try to look at meditation from a scientific view to discover what it is really about. What is its essence? That is a fundamental question because only after we answer it can we easily answer other questions about meditation. For example, why are there so many different meditation techniques? Do they have anything in common? Which meditation technique is the best? What is the benefit of meditation? And why is that? Let's begin with the first question, what is meditation really about? Most people have two states in their daily life, either awake or asleep. In fact, there is a third state between the two, which is to keep the mind awake while letting the body fall asleep. That is exactly what meditation achieves. That is the essence of meditation. In other words, meditation is sleep. It is awake sleep. It is sleeping with consciousness. With that in mind, it is not difficult to understand that all those fantastical sensations that arise during meditation are just due to the changes in the body after it falls asleep. Although those physical changes in the body occur every night, you never notice them because you lose consciousness during sleep, and thus miss one wonderful moment after another. Now let's try to prove that special relationship between sleep and meditation. We know that your heart and respiration rates will drop significantly during sleep. Although those phenomena are exactly what happens during meditation as well, it is not good enough to prove that meditation is identical to sleep. So, let's look at what else happens to the body after you fall asleep. First, your body activates a protective mechanism that paralyzes the skeletal muscles of the joints, stopping the muscles of the limbs from functioning. That prevents you from harming yourself and others while you are dreaming. And that is why you always feel weak in your dreams and can't run fast when chased by enemies. In addition, some people suffer from a condition called sleep paralysis, which occurs when the body is still in an off state after the mind wakes up. In some cultures, that condition is known as the ghost pushes you down. From that, you can see that, in normal situations, both your mind and body fall asleep and wake up at the same time. In some special situations, however, they can get out of sync. That is considered a malfunction when you cannot quickly get out of that out-of-sync state and back into your synchronized one. On the other hand, with some practice, you can train yourself not only to easily get into the out-of-sync state, but also to get back into the synchronized state at any time you wish. That is called meditation. After months of practicing meditation, you may gradually feel your limbs becoming heavier and stiffer, as if paralyzed. That indicates that you have succeeded in keeping your mind awake, while letting your body fall asleep. However, many people do not know how they have done that, even when they are able to do so. If you ever used a smartwatch to monitor your sleep, the process will be easy to understand. Smartwatches can tell exactly when you fall asleep and when you wake up. That is because they are equipped with a motion sensor that detects if there is any wrist movement. If they do not detect any wrist movement for a certain amount of time, they know you are sleeping. Similarly, your body has built-in motion sensors. When you meditate, you keep your body still. If you practice long enough, you will eventually trick your body to fall asleep when no muscle movement is detected by its motion sensors. Consequently, the protection mechanism mentioned earlier will be triggered, and the paralysis commands will be sent to the skeletal muscles even when your mind is still awake. Thus, you can see clearly why keeping the body still is the first key element in meditation practice. That is also why the lotus sitting position is better than the half lotus position, and the half lotus position is better than the easy pose. The full lotus is the most stable, and the easy pose is the least stable. However, individuals who can only sit in the easy pose can insert 2 small sponge blocks between their feet and their legs to significantly improve the stability of their legs as well as their bodies. As sleep deepens, all the muscles in the body become more and more relaxed, until they finally reach a state of complete relaxation. However, the bad news is that you lose consciousness in your sleep and cannot experience what full-body relaxation really feels like. Fortunately, an American physician, Dr. Edmund Jacobson, has developed a method, which he calls progressive muscle relaxation, or PMR, that allows you to experience muscle relaxation even when you are awake. For example, hold your fists tightly for 10 seconds, and then release them quickly. You should feel a numb, vibrating sensation in your hands. That is the sensation of hand muscle relaxation. Dr. Jacobson has invented a series of tensing and relaxing muscles that makes people experience muscle relaxation in every part of the body, not only the hands. Although the doctor's method is awesome, it only allows us to experience the relaxation of one or two muscle groups at a time. If you want to experience full body relaxation, you need to use meditation. Also, by using Dr. Jacobson's method, you can only experience muscle relaxation for a very short period, usually less than 30 seconds. But meditation can let us experience muscle relaxation for a much longer time. In fact, with enough practice, you may eventually be able to stay in that relaxed state as long as you like. Another disadvantage of Dr. Jacobson's method is that it can only let you experience the relaxation of skeletal muscles. But besides skeletal muscles, human beings also have smooth muscles and heart muscles. If you want to spontaneously experience the relaxation of all those muscles, the only way you can accomplish that is through meditation. After more and more meditation practice, you may occasionally experience numbness and vibration in your body here and there, just like a current flowing through you. That indicates the relaxation of some of your muscles. If you continue practicing, one day you will feel the amazing full-body vibration from head to toe. That indicates that you have achieved full-body relaxation with all the muscles relaxed completely. That feeling is good, but even better is the fact that, while your body is relaxing, your mind is also relaxing, and thus is temporarily freed from all kinds of anxiety, big and small. In Dr. Jacobson's own words, an anxious mind cannot exist in a relaxed body. As a matter of fact, that is why he invented the PMR method in the first place. Relieving anxiety by relaxing the body sounds interesting and works really well, but scientists don't stop there. Some valid questions they ask include, do body tension and mental anxiety occur at the same time? And if not, does one cause the other? Recent research has shown that anxiety is not directly generated in the brain, it is actually caused by physical stress in your body. In other words, when some event occurs, your body reacts to it first, and your emotions follow, caused by the physical changes in your body. For example, to resolve anxiety, many people use talk therapy and other mainstream methods that rely on rational thinking. However, Dr. Elizabeth A. Stanley, the author of Widen the Window, disagrees. She believes that people's anxiety comes from the body, not the brain. Those practices don't work until you get your body back to normal. In her work, Dr. Stanley makes a distinction between the thinking brain and the survival brain. The former, our neocortex, is responsible for decision-making, reasoning, ethics, conscious memory, and learning. The latter, which includes the limbic system, brain stem, and cerebellum, handles our emotions, implicit memory, stress arousal, and basic survival. One of the survival brain's most important functions, according to Dr. Stanley, is neuroception, an unconscious process of rapidly scanning one's internal and external environment for safety and danger. When you detect danger, your survival brain sends an instantaneous stress arousal message to your body by turning on the sympathetic nervous system. That results in the release of specific hormones that lead to certain physical sensations related to your heart, lungs, and digestive organs. Whatever is happening in the survival brain has these tremendous ripple effects through your body. In fact, as early as 2000 years ago in India, people recognized that phenomenon and utilized it to attain wisdom by practicing meditation. Specifically, in meditation, you observe the physical sensations of your body with equanimity. In other words, you treat all sensations equally, without judging whether they are good or bad, hot or cold, painful or painless, and so on. Through that practice, your mind will always remain in a state of calm and harmony, and eventually, you may attain liberation from all misery. Obviously, the wisdom here is neither intelligence nor knowledge. Modern people have much higher IQs and much more knowledge than our ancestors, but our anxiety and misery have probably not decreased one bit. In fact, they may have increased significantly due to the greater complexity of modern human society. Scientists and physicians have found many ways to address that issue, but the simplest and most natural way is just to sit still and let your body fall asleep while keeping your mind awake. That will not only relax your body but, more importantly, relax your mind at the same time. May each of us have the wisdom of the ancient sages, cultivate ourselves in awake sleep, be free from anxiety and misery, and live peacefully and happily forever. The Essence of Meditation. Chapter 2, Doing Nothing. Doing nothing, or effortlessness, is a Taoist concept that originated in China more than 2,000 years ago. Inspired by that concept, many Chinese people have found the true meaning of their day-to-day lives, and many ancient emperors have used the concept as a secret weapon for ruling their countries. But what exactly is meant by doing nothing or effortlessness? A well-accepted interpretation is that human behavior should obey the laws of nature, or the Tao, as Laozi stated in his book, Tao Te Ching. In other words, very few people will literally interpret it as doing nothing. But is it true that nothing in this world can be done without doing anything? On the one hand, the answer is no, because at least one thing can be done by doing nothing, and that is meditation. On the other hand, it is most likely that the ancient sages derived that counterintuitive idea from meditation and applied it to other fields such as everyday life and politics. But before we examine how meditation involves doing nothing, let's look at how the human body works. Physical human activities can be divided into two major categories. 1. Those that are controlled by consciousness, such as thinking or moving the limbs, and 2. Those that do not require conscious control, such as the lungs breathing, the heart beating, and other automatic functions of the internal organs. In fact, the so-called automatic functions are also controlled by the brain, but by a different part of the brain. We may as well call these two parts of the brain the conscious brain and the unconscious brain, respectively. When people are awake, the body is controlled by both the conscious brain and the unconscious brain. But because the conscious brain is so dominant, you often fail to be aware of the unconscious brain. That domination by the conscious brain can be called the effort world. But after you fall asleep, you lose consciousness, and the body is completely taken over by the unconscious brain. Domination by the unconscious brain can be called the effortless world. Note that effortless here only refers to the inaction of the conscious brain, because at the same time, the unconscious brain starts working at full capacity, dropping heart rate, lowering blood pressure, slowing down breathing, paralyzing limbs, relaxing muscles, generating the growth hormone, renewing skin cells, repairing immune cells, consolidating memory, and so on. However, because you lose consciousness after you fall asleep, you are unable during sleep to be aware of any of these changes. As I pointed out in the previous chapter, the essence of meditation is to let the body fall asleep while keeping the mind awake. That is to say, the only difference between meditation and sleep is that you lose consciousness during sleep, but you remain conscious during meditation. Because of that, meditation gives you the opportunity to experience the magical world of effortlessness. However, while you remain conscious during meditation, you must exclude any control over your body by the conscious brain, because once consciousness is involved in any bodily activity, even a little bit, that will immediately take you back to the world of effort. One special bodily activity that can be controlled by both the conscious brain and the unconscious brain is breathing. In other words, you can control how fast and how slow you are inhaling and exhaling. But when you don't pay attention to your breathing, it doesn't stop. In fact, it will adjust itself to different situations without any problem. Because of that, ancient peoples treated breathing as a bridge from the effort world to the effortless world and came up with a meditation technique called observing breathing. That technique can work splendidly, but beginners often make the mistake of using it without knowing how to observe breathing correctly. When you are not observing your breathing, everything is going well. But once you start observing your breathing, your conscious brain will try to take over control, for example, by adjusting the length of the breath or even the intervals between inhaling and exhaling. That will cause more and more chaos, until you reach a point where you can't breathe at all and must start all over again. So, what is the right way to observe your breathing? It's very simple. You just need to observe your breathing as a bystander. In other words, regardless of whether your current breathing is fast or slow, long or short, your conscious brain does not intervene. You must trust that your unconscious brain can take care of your breathing by itself, just as it takes care of the automatic functions of other internal organs in your body. As a matter of fact, so long as your conscious brain does not interfere, everything will run perfectly under the control of your unconscious brain alone. Another common misconception for most beginners is that meditation involves emptying your mind, so that you should not be thinking at all during meditation. In fact, both controlled thinking and forcing oneself not to think are attempts to use the conscious brain to control the mind. And the purpose of meditation is to let your conscious brain give up all control over your body and your mind. As a result, both controlled thinking and forcing oneself not to think are the opposite of the goal of meditation. So, should you think or not during meditation? The answer is yes and no. It sounds contradictory, but it is very simple to achieve. Just like observing your breathing, you need to observe your own thinking from the perspective of a bystander, so that the thoughts in your mind can come and go freely. Never try to stop any thought from coming out, and at the same time, don't let your mind follow any thought. Just observe it. In fact, as the body falls deeper and deeper into sleep, you will have fewer and fewer thoughts, and you will eventually reach a state where there are no thoughts at all. But that is the automatic result of meditation, not the intended goal of meditation, so don't get them confused. So far, we have seen at least 3 different meditation techniques. We just talked about 2 of them, observing breathing and observing thoughts. We also talked about observing bodily sensations in the previous chapter. Besides these 3 meditation techniques, there are many others. But if you look at them carefully, you will discover that most, if not all, of them have one thing in common, which is to observe something. That is not a coincidence. As a matter of fact, observing is the first step in giving up control. If we look at an interesting real-life example, that point will immediately become clear. When parents take their young children to a playground for the first few times, they tend to follow the children everywhere, whether on the slide, the swing, or the sandbox. They don't want their children to have an accident, so constant supervision is the only way they feel that everything is under their control, although it is really a tiring job after a while. When the children grow older and become more independent, the parents will not follow them anymore. Instead, they will sit on a bench outside the playground and watch their children from a distance, if still attentively. As you can see, that is the first step for the parents to give up control of their children. When the children grow even older and bigger and can take care of some of their own affairs, the parents will stop watching them constantly. In fact, they may start to look at their phones or even head to a nearby coffee shop for a quick drink. At that point, they have totally given up control of their children, letting them play freely and independently. That is the best time for both the children and the parents, because the former get out of bondage, and the latter find peace. Most importantly, the parents don't really need to do anything or make any effort to get into that win-win situation. All they need to do is trust that their children can take care of themselves. Similarly, during meditation, you don't need to make any effort. To be exact, you can't make any effort, because any effort will make you fail to cross the bridge between the effort world and the effortless world. If there is anything you need to do during meditation, it is to keep your body still, which at the end of the day is to do nothing. As for observing breathing, thinking, and bodily sensations during meditation, they are just some handy tools you can utilize on the way to the effortless world. As you saw from the example of the parents and their children, observation of breathing, thinking, and bodily sensations is the first step in giving up control of the conscious brain. As you get closer and closer to the effortless world, even observation itself needs to be abandoned, since it has become the last obstacle to entering the effortless world. Only when you put aside everything, abandoning all efforts and really doing nothing, can you go beyond your familiar effort world to enter the unknown effortless world. And only at that point will you transcend the limitations of the body and the mind to experience ultimate truth. Meditation is a long journey, with no hurry and no expectation. The only thing you should do and the only thing you can do is sit still and surrender everything to the Tao, the Dharma, the God, the unconscious brain, irrespective of what you call it. The Essence of Meditation. Chapter 3, Brain Games. Suppose that a mad scientist removes a person's brain from the body, suspends it in a vat of life-sustaining liquid, and connects its neurons by wires to a supercomputer that provides it with electrical impulses identical to those that the brain normally receives from the sensory organs, including the eyes, the ears, the tongue, and so on. The computer would then be simulating reality, including appropriate responses to the brain's own output, and the disembodied brain would continue to have perfectly normal conscious experiences, such as those of a person with an embodied brain, without these being related to objects or events in the real world. The question is, can the brain realize that it is living in a virtual reality? After some careful thought, most people would reply in the negative because the brain in the vat receives the same signals as the brain in the skull, which is the only way they both communicate with the outside world. In other words, from the brain's point of view, it is completely unable to determine whether it is inside a skull or a vat. That is Gilbert Harman's famous brain in a vat thought experiment, which is a contemporary version of the argument given in Hindu Maya illusion, Plato's allegory of the cave, Zhuangzi's butterfly dream, and the evil demon in René Descartes' meditations on first philosophy. That idea has also influenced many science fiction novels and movies, such as The Matrix and Inception. You may have noticed that I called the above experiment a thought experiment, which does not refer to its philosophical content, but to the fact that it must be carried out in the imagination because it cannot be performed in the real world. In the brain in a vat example, irrespective of whether current science and technology can make it happen, moral and legal restrictions would not allow us to actually perform the experiment. But believe it or not, we individually experience many similar scenarios almost every day. For example, after falling asleep, you lose some or all of your hearing, vision, smell, taste, and touch. The skeletal muscles of your limbs are paralyzed as well. That is because the sensory nerves, also known as the afferent nerves, and the motor nerves, also known as the efferent nerves, are gradually shut down during sleep. These sensory and motor nerves can be sensed and controlled by the mind, which is unique to animals, so they are called animal nerves, also known as somatic nerves. In contrast to animal nerves, the nerves that cannot be controlled by the mind continue to work during sleep. They connect the unconscious brain to the internal organs, regulate them, and keep the blood circulating to assure the body's basal metabolism. Although these nerves are also controlled by the brain, the unconscious brain, it seems that they can work automatically and independently. So they are called vegetative nerves, also known as autonomic nerves. In other words, every night you go through a brain in a vat experiment after falling asleep, as if the brain has been removed from the body, cutting off animal nerves, and put into a vat of life-sustaining liquid to maintain its physiological activity, keeping vegetative nerves. The bad news is that your brain goes into a dormant state during sleep and loses consciousness. If you could stay conscious during sleep, you would be able to experience whatever the brain in a vat experiment experiences. So, is there a way to stay conscious during sleep? The answer is yes, and that is meditation. From the previous chapter, you know that meditation lets your body fall asleep, while keeping your mind awake. When the meditating body falls asleep, just as in normal sleep, the animal nerves in your body gradually shut down, while the vegetative nerves continue working. In other words, meditation is a perfect way to simulate the brain in a vat experiment because the meditating brain and the brain in a vat brain both cut off the animal nerves from the brain, while keeping the brain and the vegetative nerves active. By recognizing that, you not only see the similarities between meditation and the brain in a vat experiment, but you also have a better understanding of the various sensations you may experience during meditation. For example, while meditating, you may hear sounds that you normally don't hear. Or you may smell things that don't exist. Or you may feel cold or hot when the temperature is perfectly normal. Or you may feel paralysis in your limbs. Or you may feel that the body and mind are integrated into one. All these sensations are nothing but normal phenomena that occur when the sensory nerves and the motor nerves in your body shut down. Of course, you can call all these phenomena hallucinations, and you would be absolutely right. However, the biggest inspiration that the brain in a vat experiment brings to us may be that there is no clear distinction between fantasy and reality. In other words, at the end of the day, everything is just a game between the nerves and the brain. As a matter of fact, even for the brain that is reading this essay at this very moment, you cannot be 100% sure that it is a brain in a skull or a brain in a vat. If you have read this article to this point, if you are still interested in the concept of a brain in a vat, and if curiosity drives you to find the truth for yourself, what are you waiting for? Start practicing meditation now. It is worth mentioning that if you have just started practicing meditation, a sore back and pains in the legs may be the biggest problems you will face at that stage. Please do not worry, and do not be discouraged. The good news is that with more and more practice, your sensory nerves will be shut down deeper and deeper in your body, and you will feel lighter and lighter, so that eventually you will have no more soreness or pain. In fact, if you continue practicing, one day all the sensory nerves will be shut down completely. And when that happens, not only will you have no more body pain, but you will no longer feel your body at all, as if it suddenly disappeared, leaving only the consciousness that pervades the universe. That may sound unreal and unbelievable. However, from ancient times to the present day, there have been countless people who have entered that state and experienced that magical moment. The only difference is that some people call it an out-of-body experience, some call it an immortal ascension, some call it a near-death experience, and some call it nirvana rebirth. Name it what you like. But if you look closely, you will see that most of those people are talking about the same thing. If you look even closer, you will find many similarities and coincidences among the theories of the various factions. For example, Buddhists divide the realms of being into three worlds: the world of desire, the world of form, and the world of formlessness. Not surprisingly, these three worlds seamlessly correspond to the three states of meditation. To be specific, the so-called desire world is the normal state of a human being, who is full of various desires. The so-called form world is the state in which people have less and less desire after the sensory nerves shut down. That is because, as the ancients believed, all desires come from the senses. If hearing, vision, smell, taste, and touch were shut down one by one, all desires would disappear with them. The form here refers to the human body, so the form world means that although people have no desire in that state, the human body still exists. As for the formless world, it exists when the sensory nerves are completely shut down, the body no longer exists, and the meditator enters the highest state of the consciousness-only mode. In summary, we have almost found a perfect way to simulate the brain in a vat experiment. But it seems that we are still missing the final step, which is to find a supercomputer and connect it to your brain. For most people, that is the most critical and most important step, because only when that is achieved can you make any of your dreams come true instantly through some pre-programmed code. Unfortunately, at the present time, such supercomputers only exist in science fiction novels and movies. However, if you think again, so-called dreams are just another name for human desires. If meditation can really lead you to go beyond the desire world into the form world, and eventually into the formless world where only consciousness exists, that means you have already gotten rid of the shackles of sensory enjoyment and worldly interests. It also means that you can obtain absolute spiritual freedom and liberation without any external signals to stimulate you. So, the bottom line is that meditation is all you need. Forget about computers. The essence of meditation. Chapter 4, Emotion Zones. As mentioned in Chapter 1, Awake Sleep, more and more research is demonstrating that anxiety is not in your mind, but your body. In other words, when some event occurs, your body reacts first, and the emotions that emerge after that are caused by the physical changes in your body. Why the body reacts first must have something to do with human evolution. Imagine that you are a primitive human being walking in a jungle, when suddenly a beast jumps out from nowhere. Before figuring out what kind of beast it is, whether it is a threat to you, whether you should fight it, or turn around and run away, your entire body starts reacting in a split second. Your pulse quickens, your breathing becomes shallow, your eyes dilate, and your body starts to produce adrenaline. Everything happening in your body is good because you're prepared to survive that encounter with the beast. However, there is the possibility that the intruder is not a beast, but a friendly buddy from another tribe. Even if you eventually learn the truth, your body is ready for fight or flight, and your heart rate is still increasing. At least, it will not return to normal anytime soon. That is because you are completely in control of the surging adrenaline, although the frightening experience is just a false alarm. In the present day, most people no longer need to worry about encountering an unexpected beast. However, that beast still lurks in everyone's body and jumps out to frighten you at every turn. For example, when you encounter a traffic jam on the way to work, the beast jumps out and makes you anxious immediately. When you encounter people and things that are not going well at work, the beast jumps out and makes you instantly irritated. When you are back home and see your child playing online games instead of doing homework, in no time the beast jumps out and makes you feel nameless anger. In fact, if you replace the hypothetical beast in the jungle with words that only today's civilized people can understand, such as social media, traffic, politics, COVID-19, childcare, or climate change, you can quickly see why anxiety is the most common mental illness in the world, affecting nearly 20% of the population in some countries. In other words, modern-day humans are basically a bunch of freaked-out primitives in perpetual fight-or-flight mode. If we recognize that emotions are determined by the state of your body, which is nothing more than a collection of physical and chemical variables, that means that we might be able to quantify emotions scientifically, rather than relying on imprecise human words, such as anger, anxiety, confusion, pain, excitement, and happiness. Of course, that quantification process will not be easy, because the human body is a super complex system with an enormous number of physical and chemical variables, not to mention that new variables are constantly emerging as science progresses. To simplify, let's assume that there is only one variable in your body, the heart rate. In that case, all emotions will be correlated with the heart rate, and only with the heart rate. Also, let's assume that the heart rate is 60 to 80 beats per minute, BPM, in normal circumstances, rises to 120 BPM during an emergency, and falls to 50 BPM during sleep. Thus, based on the measurement of the heart rate, we can divide the physical state of the human body into three zones: the normal or comfort zone, from 60 to 80 BPM, the emergency or danger zone, from 80 to 120 BPM, and the sleep or rest zone, from 50 to 60 BPM. Since emotions are determined by the state of your body, they must also have three corresponding emotion zones. But, under normal circumstances, after you fall asleep, you lose consciousness and don't have emotions anymore. You may think that you have emotions in your dreams. But if you look at them carefully, you will find out that despite sweet dreams or nightmares, the emotions of happiness or fear occur only after you wake up from the dreams. In other words, the sleep zone of emotions does not exist. However, if there is a way to let the body sleep while the mind remains conscious, that will create an all-new emotion that most people have never experienced. And yes, as you have probably guessed, that method is meditation, because the essence of meditation is to let the body fall asleep, while keeping the mind awake. As for what that new emotion feels like, I am afraid there is no one word to describe it, since it has been referred to by various people as calmness, serenity, freedom, compassion, fraternity, and even emptiness. Notice that using heart rate as the only variable for the state of the human body is an extreme simplification. If another variable, for example, blood pressure, is added, the one-dimensional emotion zone will become a two-dimensional emotion area. If one more variable, for example, respiratory rate, is added, the two-dimensional emotion area will become a three-dimensional emotion space. If n variables are used to present the state of the human body, some n-dimensional emotion spaces will be created. As you can see, with more and more dimensions added, the emotion spaces become more and more complicated. Without a map or GPS system, there is no way for us to plan a route in advance or follow some existing routes to explore those unknown emotion spaces. That explains why everyone's meditation experience may be different. As a matter of fact, even for the same person, each time he or she may get a different experience in meditation for the same reason. But dividing emotions into three zones is also a great simplification. For example, between the comfort zone and the danger zone, there is also an optimal performance or flow zone. That's because moderate anxiety usually improves a person's performance. As anxiety increases, performance increases, until it reaches an optimal level. Beyond that point, as anxiety increases, performance decreases, so that eventually you will come out of the performance zone and go into the danger zone. When people are in the performance or flow zone, they are able to accomplish tasks easily, for their bodies automatically move by themselves. Since those people are focusing on the present, hours seem to pass by the minute. In addition, because people concentrate deeply when they are in the performance or flow zone, they are less sensitive to internal feelings such as hunger and external stimuli such as mobile phone vibrations. Also, after people accomplish tasks, they usually feel happy, satisfied, and filled with positive energy. The idea of flow may sound unreal to you, but you may have already experienced it without knowing it. For example, a stressful school exam may engross you, and the deeper your concentration is and the longer you focus, the more likely you will do well on the exam. That is the result of flow. While everyone may benefit from flow, many artists and athletes in particular have tremendous interest in pursuing it, because they have discovered that their work or competition will never be perfect if they think too much. But if they can enter flow, their hands and feet, and even their whole body, will move by themselves. In that way, they will be able to produce highly satisfactory work or get surprising results in competitions. So, how to get out of the comfort zone and enter the flow zone without falling into the danger zone marks the difference between mediocrity and genius. Many talented artists and athletes have discovered that secret. Bruce Lee, one of the greatest martial artists of all time, revealed the secret in this way: the successful warrior is the average man with laser-like focus. Indeed, entering the flow zone through concentration seems to be the secret weapon of many successful people in various fields. However, for ordinary people, laser-like concentration is not innate, but can only be obtained through long-term training. In fact, switching between any emotions is not at all easy. As mentioned in Chapter 3, brain games, the human nervous system can be divided into two categories: somatic or animal nerves, which can be controlled by your mind, and autonomic or vegetative nerves, which cannot be controlled by your mind. The autonomic nerves can be further divided into sympathetic nerves and parasympathetic nerves. The sympathetic nerves are responsible for fight or flight. When these nerves are stimulated, that is manifested by, among other things, a rapid heartbeat, increased breathing, dilated blood vessels, sweating, and dilated pupils. When that happens, you enter the danger zone. The parasympathetic nerves are responsible for recuperation and digestion. When the parasympathetic nerves are stimulated, that shrinks the pupils, slows down the heartbeat, decreases myocardial contractility, contracts smooth muscles, strengthens gastrointestinal peristalsis, relaxes the skeletal muscles, and increases saliva and tear secretion. When that happens, you enter the rest zone. As you can see, just like the acceleration pedal and the brake pedal, which are used to control the movement of a car, the sympathetic nerves and the parasympathetic nerves work in opposite ways to control the state changes of your body. Since both the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nerves belong to the vegetative nervous system, over which your mind has no control, that means that you can't change the state of your body with your mind. It also means that you can't change your emotions with your mind. For example, we often see children cry without tears in front of their parents to get a new toy. That is because their facial expressions and vocal cord vibrations are controlled by their animal nerves, which in turn are controlled by their minds. In contrast, tears are controlled by vegetative nerves, which are not controlled by their minds. As a result, tears are not always available on command. However, many actors can tear up anytime and anywhere the story calls for it, which is amazing. How do they do that? The answer is simple. Since they cannot change emotions directly through their minds, they must use an indirect or roundabout strategy. When actors need to cry, they stimulate their parasympathetic nerves by recalling a sad story in their minds, or silently singing a desolate song in their hearts, to arouse the secretion of tears. Of course, few of them can burst into tears without practicing countless times. For the same reason, artists and athletes enter the flow zone via concentration, which again comes down to the fact that they cannot change their emotions directly through their minds. Similarly, when you meditate, you can't force your body to fall asleep by commanding your mind. On the contrary, you must give up any participation of the mind and fall asleep indirectly by keeping your body still and tricking your brain, specifically, the unconscious brain, to believe that you have fallen asleep. Then the unconscious brain will shut down the animal nerves and inhibit the sympathetic nerves, while stimulating the parasympathetic nerves, thus letting you enter the sleep or rest zone, where the body and mind are completely relaxed. As for the popular emotion management articles and books available nowadays, if you study them carefully, you will discover that most of them are discussing how to use rational thinking to control your behavior when you are emotionally involved. That is, behavior management rather than emotion management. If there is really a way to manage your emotions, it must be by doing nothing, sitting motionlessly, tricking your body into sleep, and creating an all-new emotion in a state of complete relaxation, which you feel to the fullest. The Essence of Meditation. Chapter 5, Sleepability. At the very beginning of this book, I pointed out that the essence of meditation is to let the body fall asleep while keeping the mind awake. When you see that statement, you may ask, if meditation is just sleeping, isn't it a waste of time? I would like to answer that question from two perspectives: 1, the psychological benefits of meditation, and 2, the biological benefits of meditation. On the one hand, meditation is indeed sleeping, but the two are not exactly the same, because in sleep you lose consciousness, whereas in meditation you remain conscious. And because of that difference, meditation gives you the opportunity to explore the wonderful and magical world of effortlessness. As for the huge psychological impact and benefits these novel experiences bring to us, I have already spent a great deal of time explaining them in the previous chapters, so I will not repeat them here. On the other hand, asking if meditation is a waste of time reveals a common belief that sleeping is a waste of time. As William Shakespeare once wrote, there is plenty of time to sleep in the grave. In fact, many people not only see sleep as a waste of time, but also often associate it with laziness. However, if you knew that LeBron James, the NBA's top player, sleeps 12 hours a day to ensure that he's at his best in every game and practice, you would probably change your mind about how sleep can benefit you. Actually, more and more recent studies have shown that sleep not only plays an important role in physical recovery, but also in preventing disease and aging. In other words, those misunderstandings and prejudices about sleep may be some of the main culprits affecting human health today. In Why We Sleep, Professor Matthew Walker of the University of California at Berkeley lists interesting data to illustrate the importance of sleep. For example, in one of his comparative experiments, he found that a sleep-deprived person's learning ability is 40% lower than that of a well-rested person. There are many reasons for that, but the main reason may be related to the two-stage information storage process of the human brain. Specifically, the brain first records the information it receives in the hippocampus for short-term memory storage and then transfers that information to the cortex and saves it there for long-term memory storage. However, that transfer process is not immediate because it must occur during sleep. Today, with the information explosion, you are receiving enormous amounts of data each day. If there is not enough sleep time at night for your brain to complete the data transfer and storage, while emptying the hippocampus, that may not only cause the loss of some important information, but also lead to the inability of the hippocampus to accept new information. The same is true of computers and smartphones. For fast access, the data in use are often stored temporarily on a small memory chip, which is equivalent to the hippocampus. When you are not using your computers and smartphones, their data are permanently written onto a large hard drive, which is equivalent to the cortex, so that they can be retrieved later. However, due to some intentional or unintentional software bug, the data in the small chip's memory sometimes cannot be removed completely. When more and more old data accumulate over time, computers and smartphones will run slower and slower, eventually becoming completely unusable. However, when that happens, you just need to shut down and restart the devices to clear out all the junk data from their memory, and then everything will run smoothly again, just as you wake up refreshed from a good long sleep after staying up for a couple of nights. In addition to discovering the impact on our learning ability, Professor Walker also found that men who routinely sleep only 5 to 6 hours a night will have the testosterone level of a man 10 years older. We know that adequate testosterone is not only a must for good health, but also leads to increased muscle and bone mass, decreased body fat, and increased growth of body hair. In other words, a lack of sleep ages men by a decade in terms of wellness and virility. Not surprisingly, women who sleep 5 to 6 hours per night show a 20% reduction in follicle-stimulating hormone, FSH, which is critical for becoming pregnant. Adequate sleep will also strengthen your cardiovascular system. One piece of evidence for this is that every year when daylight savings time starts, hospital admissions for heart disease on the first day of the time change increase by 24%, presumably due to just 1 hour of lost sleep. Contrarily, hospital admissions for heart disease decrease by 21% on the first day after daylight savings time ends, presumably because of the extra hour of sleep. Furthermore, comparable increases and decreases occur in traffic accident rates and suicide rates when daylight savings time changes. Based on these data, when the public school district in Edina, Minnesota, delayed the start of the school day by an hour, it found that the SAT scores for the top 10% of the students rose from an average of 1,288 to 1,500. Similarly, in Teton, Wyoming, when the public school district made the same change, it found that the traffic accident rate of 16 to 18-year-old novice drivers dropped by 70%. Besides all the benefits mentioned above, adequate sleep is also crucial for maintaining the body's immunity and hence preventing various diseases and even cancer. Furthermore, since the length of sleep and Alzheimer's disease are both correlated with age, it may be possible to prevent dementia by sleeping longer. Today, there are many ways to sleep longer. The most common ones involve using sleeping pills or melatonin. However, one of many disadvantages of these drugs is that, while increasing total sleep time, they significantly reduce deep sleep, and hence reduce the quality of sleep. So, is there a way to let us sleep longer and deeper at the same time? The answer is yes, and that way is to meditate, because meditation is indeed a natural way of sleeping. If meditation is a form of sleep, you may ask, why bother with meditation when I am tired? I should just go to bed and sleep. Indeed, when you feel tired, you should go to sleep, not meditate. However, how many people in real life are lucky enough to sleep whenever they want? Every morning, most people are awakened by an alarm clock, whether they are rested or not. After a busy morning and a quick lunch, they start to feel drowsy, but they have to attend one boring meeting after another. When they finally get home at night, they know they should go to bed early, but they can't resist the temptation of watching dramas or news on TV. Eventually, they lie down in bed and start to browse on their smartphones. Most likely, they end up sleepless, even after they turn off their phones, so they have to set an alarm clock, hoping that it will wake them in the morning. That process becomes a vicious cycle. However, if you have some special ability that allows you to fall asleep quickly, anywhere, in any position, and for any length of time, without attracting the attention of the people around you, that would be awesome. Note that the challenge here is not only whether you can fall asleep quickly, but also whether you can prevent others from noticing you after you fall asleep. That is because it would be embarrassing if you snored loudly in the middle of a group meeting. In order to solve that problem, you must find a way to keep your brain awake after you fall asleep, or after your body falls asleep. Again, meditation is the answer because the essence of meditation is to keep the mind awake, while letting the body fall asleep. Not only that, but meditation also allows you to fall asleep anywhere, in any posture. That is because, as I have pointed out earlier, the first key element of meditation is to keep the body still. And quite possibly, keeping the body still is the only key element of meditation. In other words, so long as you can keep your body still, whether sitting, standing, or lying down, you can start meditating. To take sitting as an example, you could sit on the ground, on a chair, or on a couch without any restrictions. As for whether your eyes should be open or closed during meditation, or half open and half closed, that is your call and makes no difference. In addition, standing meditation, known as Zhanzhuang in Chinese, has become an important part of the traditional Chinese martial arts system. Many Kung Fu masters often ask new students to practice Zhanzhuang for 3 years before teaching them any real Kung Fu techniques. It turns out that the ancients were long aware of the relationship between meditation and fitness. Finally, lying down is one of the easiest and most relaxing ways to get into a deep sleep meditation. For those of you who have never tried to meditate while lying down, be sure to try it sometime to understand its mystery and fun. But you may also ask, if I am retired, I can sleep anytime I want, so why bother with meditation? That may be true for some people, but even if you have enough time to sleep each day, will you be able to sleep as long as you want? Leaving aside those individuals who are troubled by insomnia, can people who do not have any sleep disorders sleep 12 hours a day like LeBron James? Not all of us can sleep for even 8 hours a day, because as we age, our sleep gradually declines in both length and quality. In short, whether lack of sleep is caused by external or internal factors, you must find a feasible way to make up for it in order to maintain your body's health and to slow down aging. To this end, scientists and doctors have invented a variety of drugs and therapies to prolong people's sleep time. However, the easiest and most natural way to do that is to sit still and let your body fall asleep while you remain conscious. That is meditation, whose greatest biological benefit is to naturally extend the amount of your sleep time. Just imagine, if you know how to meditate, you can turn on your sleep mode at any time during those boring meetings, and you will not be noticed by anyone around you. What's more interesting is that because your brain is always awake during meditation, it does not affect your listening and understanding of the speech given by the boss, nor does it affect your answering other people's questions. As a matter of fact, you may feel much clearer in your mind and come up with many novel ideas during meditative sleep. If you know how to meditate, you can sit on your couch while watching dramas and sleeping at the same time, and that will not affect the next day's follow-up because you won't miss any interesting plot during sleep. If you ever have trouble falling asleep, all you need to do is meditate by keeping still and letting your body fall asleep. In that way, even if your brain does not fall asleep, it will not affect your next day's work or study. In other words, if you know how to meditate, you will never have insomnia, because meditation is sleep. Although you are conscious the whole time you are meditating, everything that happens in your body during normal sleep happens during meditation, so you will get from meditation every benefit you get from normal sleep. Although sleep is an innate ability in everyone, that ability is ruthlessly limited and weakened by the fast pace of modern life, as well as by your age. Lack of sleep creates a chain reaction of poor memory, reduced learning ability, increased risk of cardiovascular disease, decreased immunity, and increased risk of cancer. You may not be able to slow down the pace of your current life, and you certainly can't do anything about your age. However, there is a way to sleep anytime, anywhere, in any posture, without attracting anyone's attention. Moreover, it can make you look 10 years younger. Most importantly, it can make you truly happy. Don't you want to try that method? If so, what are you waiting for? Start meditating. The Essence of Meditation. Chapter 6, 1,000 Hours. After understanding the essence of meditation, you will have a better idea of all the different methods and techniques out there. You will also understand exactly which benefits meditation can bring to you and why. However, there is still one common question for beginners: how long should it take to complete the initial learning phase of meditation? That is a very good question, and one that cannot be avoided, because the initial phase of learning meditation is so long that most people give up before they reach the second phase. Therefore, knowing approximately how long it may take to reach the finish line of the initial phase should increase your confidence and relax your mind when practicing meditation. But before you can know the right answer, you must first find out what is meant by the initial phase. In other words, what are the criteria for completing the initial phase of learning meditation? As mentioned earlier, the experience of meditation is highly personal, which means that everyone's meditation experience will probably be different. However, among the various possible experiences, there are some easily described sensations and feelings that most people will experience. For example, after some meditation practice, you may gradually feel your limbs becoming heavier and stiffer, as if partially paralyzed. That is because when you meditate, you keep your body still. If you practice long enough, you will eventually trick your unconscious brain into believing that you have fallen asleep. The unconscious brain will then start shutting down the motor nerves, as if sending the paralysis commands to the skeletal muscles. Since meditation keeps your mind awake while letting your body sleep, your sensory nerves and your autonomic nerves are also changing during meditation. That is why you will experience all kinds of fantastic sensations and feelings during meditation. Thus, I have spent a lot of time in the previous chapters discussing them, so we won't repeat that here. Also, In order to make the definition of the initial phase of learning meditation as simple as possible, I will focus in this chapter only on the sensations and feelings caused by the changes in the motor nerves. After some meditation practice, you may occasionally experience numbness and vibration here and there in your body, as if a current were flowing through you. That indicates that some of your muscles are relaxing. If you continue to practice regularly, one day you will feel the amazing full-body vibration from head to toe. That indicates that you have achieved full-body relaxation, with most, if not all, of your motor nerves shut down. If you can readily enter this state every time you start meditating, and if you can stay in this state for as long as you want, congratulations, you have completed the initial learning phase of meditation. This description of completing the initial phase sounds simple, but it's not that easy to achieve. As for how long it will take to reach the finish line of the initial phase, there is no standard answer, because everyone's physical condition and mental state are different. For example, some people have been able to achieve this state during their first meditation practice, or may have even entered a higher state. Who knows? Needless to say, it is undeniable that individual differences can be huge. But how long will it take most of us, the ordinary people, to complete the initial phase? Maybe we can learn something from the experience of the ancients to get a glimpse of the possible answer. As I mentioned in the previous chapter, many Kung Fu masters often ask new students to practice standing meditation, known as Zhanzhuang in Chinese, for 3 years before teaching them any real Kung Fu techniques, believing that the students need at least 3 years to complete the initial training of meditation. However, the masters do not say how long to practice each day during those 3 years. For example, a student who stands for only 1 hour a day will stand for about 1,000 hours in 3 years, whereas a student who stands for 3 hours a day will stand for about 3,000 hours in 3 years. That is a huge difference, but which number is more reasonable to get to the finish line of the initial phase? Instead of answering this question directly, I would like to think about it in this way. Quick learners may only need to practice 1 hour a day to get there in 3 years, and slow learners must practice 3 hours a day to get there in the same time period. Also, internal alchemy, or Niden in Chinese, is a collection of esoteric doctrines and physical, mental, and spiritual practices that Taoists use to prolong life and create an immortal spiritual body that will survive after death. The first stage of Niden is called foundation building, also known as 100 days of foundation building. Put simply, it is to learn how to meditate in 100 days. Compared to the 3-year Zhanzhuang above, the 100 days of foundation building sounds more like a crash course of meditation. In fact, the premise of this 100-day practice is that it must be carried out under the conditions of an intensive retreat. To retreat is to isolate oneself in a certain place, without communicating with the outside world, usually staying silent while focusing on meditation. If you meditate in such an environment for 12 hours a day, and use the other 12 hours for eating and sleeping, then at the end of 100 days you will have practiced meditating for 1,200 hours. Although that is just over 1,000 hours and considerably below 3,000 hours, with such high-intensity training, even the slowest learners should be able to complete the initial phase of meditation within 100 days. Nowadays, with the proliferation of meditation from east to west, many large companies in the United States are offering free meditation courses for their employees. At Google, for example, one of the prerequisites for meditation instructors is to have at least 1,500 hours of meditation experience. I don't know if that figure was based on some statistical data, was recommended by some meditation masters, or was just picked randomly. But it aligns with the wisdom of the ancients, which is very interesting. In short, for most people, the bottom line for completing the initial phase of meditation is around 1,000 hours. Sitting for 1,000 hours does not guarantee that you have completed the initial phase, but if you haven't sat for 1,000 hours, the odds are that you must have not reached the finish line yet. Note that the 1,000 hours are a total amount of time, no matter how long you meditate during each session and how many sessions you meditate each day. If you ask a Buddhist monk how long he meditates each day, he may tell you that he meditates twice a day for 4 hours each time, which is unimaginable and even impossible for most of us. As a matter of fact, for beginners, more than a few minutes of sitting at a time can become a form of torture. Therefore, individuals who have just begun to learn meditation can start with 1 minute each session and gradually extend that to 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and so on. One advantage of short sessions is that you can practice many times a day. For example, whenever you read a book, you might set an alarm clock that reminds you to meditate for 5 minutes every half hour. In that way, if you read for 2 hours, you will comfortably accumulate 20 minutes of practice time. Moreover, because each meditation session is short, it will not be a burden or torture. Instead, it will be an interesting experience for you to keep trying again and again. In addition, for beginners, the 20 minutes of accumulated short sessions are often more effective than 20 minutes of continuous meditating. To accumulate 1,000 hours of meditation, you don't have to find the best method before starting to practice. Aside from the common methods mentioned earlier, such as observing your breath, thoughts, or bodily sensations, anything that keeps you motionless is good, because keeping still is the key element of meditation. As for meditating while sitting, standing, or lying down, you should try them all, because no matter what method or posture you use, you will be meditating. So long as you can keep your body still and your mind awake, you will be meditating during every minute, and every minute accumulates into those 1,000 hours. Meditation is a long journey, and during the first 1,000 hours, the road is full of thorns, twists, and turns. But please don't worry, and don't be discouraged. So long as you can accumulate 1,000 hours of sitting, even if you haven't completed the initial phase, you are not too far away from the finish line. Once you complete the initial phase and enter the second phase, the road under your feet will become wider and flatter, and the scenery will become more and more beautiful. So, what are you waiting for? Start meditating now. As Laozi stated in his book, Tao Te Ching, a 1,000-mile journey begins with the first step. The 1,000-hour journey of meditation begins with every hour, every minute, and every second of awake sleep. The Essence of Meditation. Chapter 7, Stillness and Motion. As previously mentioned, the essence of meditation is to keep the mind awake while allowing the body to enter into a state of sleep. The specific method for achieving meditation is to maintain stillness in the body so that the body's built-in sensors cannot detect any muscle movement. With enough practice and time, your brain, more accurately, your unconscious brain, mistakenly believing that you have fallen asleep, will gradually shut down both your motor and sensory nerves, inhibiting the sympathetic nerves while stimulating the parasympathetic nerves. This ultimately leads your body into a completely relaxed state of sleep. That is why I have repeatedly emphasized that maintaining stillness is the first key element of meditation, and I can even assert that it is the only key element of meditation. Moreover, through simple logical reasoning, I can make a bolder guess that any human activity that is achieved by maintaining stillness in the body is essentially meditation. For example, Zhanzhuang, Niden, and various static exercises in Qigong, including Tuna and Xingqi, through breath adjustment. Although they may superficially appear to be vastly different, some standing, some sitting, and some lying down, with different internal focusing points as well, they all essentially achieve meditation by maintaining stillness in the body. However, although most meditation methods are achieved by keeping the body still, there are nevertheless some very special methods that achieve meditation through bodily movement. For example, in addition to sitting meditation, Buddhist practitioners sometimes choose an outdoor space, focus their minds without any distractions, and walk back and forth in a straight line with very slow steps, called walking meditation. In fact, the slowness of the pace is not necessary, because some experienced practitioners can achieve the same effect with faster speeds. That is to say, slowness is not the key to walking meditation, but maintaining a constant speed and moving in a straight line are the keys. So, what is the connection between moving at a constant speed in a straight line and maintaining stillness? People who have studied physics know that Newton's first law states that when an object is not subjected to an external force, it will remain at rest or move at a constant speed in a straight line. It is common sense and relatively easy to understand that an object that is not subject to external forces remains at rest. However, an object that is not subject to external forces can also maintain constant speed in a straight line, which is a discovery that contradicts common sense and also underlies Newton's greatness. So again, what is the inherent commonality between maintaining stillness and moving at a constant speed in a straight line, or uniform linear motion? In other words, what is the essential difference between stillness/uniform linear motion and other forms of motion, that is, nonlinear motion and non-uniform linear motion? The answer is simple. That is, the acceleration of stillness and uniform linear motion is zero, while the acceleration of nonlinear motion and non-uniform linear motion is not zero. The sensors in your body, mentioned earlier, like the sensors in smartwatches, are actually acceleration sensors, or accelerometers, not velocity sensors. That is to say, stillness and uniform linear motion are the same for them because the acceleration is zero. This explains why uniform linear motion, like walking meditation, and stillness have the same effect, since your unconscious brain mistakenly thinks you are asleep because it cannot detect any acceleration of your muscles and thus lets your body go into a sleep state. In addition, the sensors in your body are not as sensitive as you thought. That means that as long as you keep the acceleration of your body movements within a small range, even nonlinear or non-uniform linear movements may cause your unconscious brain to mistakenly assume you are asleep because it cannot detect sufficient acceleration. So, how can you keep the acceleration of your body movements within a small range? You just need to slow down your movements. Tai Chi is a perfect example. Most of the movements in Tai Chi come from Chinese martial arts, but the biggest difference between Tai Chi and other martial arts is the speed of the movements. Therefore, although most of those movements are nonlinear, due to the slow and uniform speed of each movement, and the seamless and continuous transitions between movements, the acceleration throughout the entire flow can be almost ignored. Also, in various moving exercises of Qigong, most, if not all, use very gentle and slow movements based on the same principle. That is to say, whether it is Tai Chi or Qigong, so long as you truly practice slowly, you can achieve the effect of meditation. Or to make the point more bluntly, Tai Chi and Qigong are essentially forms of meditation. Moreover, Newton's first law is also known as the law of inertia. The so-called inertia refers to the property of an object resisting changes to its motion state. By applying this law, we can not only better understand the relationship between stillness and motion, but also unlock the principle behind the progressive muscle relaxation method mentioned in Chapter 1, Awake Sleep. We already know that this method deliberately tightens and relaxes different muscle groups in the body progressively, thereby gradually eliminating the tension and inducing a sense of relaxation. But how exactly does that work? Suppose the degree of muscle tension ranges from 0 to 10, with several levels in between. That is to say, when we engage in intense physical activity, the muscle tension can rise to 10, whereas when we are asleep, the muscles are completely relaxed, and the tension drops to 0. When we wake up, under normal circumstances, our muscle tension level is not 0 or 10, but rather stays at a value between 0 and 10. Let's assume that that value is 3, although it may vary slightly for each person. Note that, under normal circumstances, it is difficult to experience the feeling of muscle relaxation below that normal value of 3. However, If we deliberately tighten our muscles and maintain this for a while, and then suddenly relax them, the muscle tension will quickly drop from 10 to 3. However, it will not stop there, but due to the inertia effect mentioned earlier, it will continue to decrease to 2, then 1, and even 0. Of course, after reaching the lowest point, the muscle tension will rebound, and rise back up to 1, and then 2, before finally returning to the normal value of 3 and staying there. Although this relaxation of muscles below 3 is not long-lasting, usually not exceeding half a minute, it allows us to experience the physical changes that occur only after falling asleep even when we are awake. It can be said that Dr. Jacobson's invention is truly remarkable. This is also why in Chapter 6, 1,000 Hours, we considered achieving full-body muscle relaxation as the criterion for completing the initial phase of learning meditation, because not only is it a very clear and explicit goal, but, more importantly, it is a goal that we can partially experience through the progressive muscle relaxation method. Also, the series of movements in yoga share similarities with progressive muscle relaxation. The principles behind both are exactly the same. In fact, the founder of yoga, Patanjali, explained in detail the 8 limbs of yoga in his book Yoga Sutras. What we typically practice today in the gym is only the 3rd limb, which is the asana or posture yoga. The later pranayama or breathing yoga is similar to qigong's tuna or xingqi. As for the 7th limb, dhyana, it is an extremely deep meditation, and the 8th limb, samadhi, is the highest state that meditation can bring us to, the unity of heaven and humanity. In short, stillness is meditation, as well as uniform linear movement. Slow and continuous nonlinear movement and non-uniform linear movement can also be forms of meditation. As for the various muscle relaxation techniques, they are excellent warm-up exercises for meditation. They help us set meditation goals, experience or partially experience the wonderful feelings that come with achieving those goals, and always have a firm belief and a lively hope. In many Eastern temples, you will find a stone tablet or plaque inscribed with the words "entering samadhi." It means that no matter who enters there, they must put aside their distractions and purify their minds to discover their true selves. However, most believers do not know that samadhi is not in the temple or in the wild forests, but in everyone's own hearts. Instead of looking for immortals and seeking the Tao far away, it is better to sit quietly at home or walk slowly in the yard to find the mysteries of life in the joy of meditation. May each of us find our own samadhi and enter it whenever we want to, whenever we need to, and whenever we have to. The Essence of Meditation. Chapter 8, Eastern Wisdom. If someone were to say, the wisdom of the East comes from meditation, you might just laugh it off. However, if that statement is changed to, most Eastern sages are masters of meditation, you would think that sounds reasonable. For example, Buddha studied meditation under several Indian yoga masters for 6 years. But then one day, after continuously meditating under a Bodhi tree for 7 days and 7 nights, he suddenly achieved enlightenment and entered nirvana, which was the beginning of Buddhism. Later, Buddhism was introduced to China, took root and flourished there, and gave rise to 10 different sections. Although some of these sects had unique methods of practicing Buddhism, such as the Pure Land schools, Nianfo, and the Chan, or Zen, schools, Huatu, most of them still practice Buddhism using the traditional method of sitting meditation. In particular, the silent illumination Zen method advocated by the Chaodong school was summarized by Dogen Zenji in Japan with the phrase, just sitting, which can be said to reveal the secret of practicing Buddhism. Just sitting has also become one of the characteristics of the Japanese Chaodong school. As for China's indigenous culture, I have already discussed the origin and development of effortlessness in great detail in Chapter 2, Doing Nothing. In short, meditation may be the only human activity that can be achieved by doing nothing. Conversely, it is most likely that the ancient sages derived that counterintuitive idea from meditation and applied it to other fields, such as everyday life and politics. However, is there any concrete evidence to show that those sages truly achieved enlightenment through meditation? The ancient Chinese referred to meditation as Zhuowang, or Xin-Zhai. Literally, Zhuowang means sitting forgetting, and Xin-Zhai means mind fasting. In the book Xuanzi, there is a dialogue between Confucius and his disciple Yan Hui. Yan Hui said, "I have achieved Zhuowang." Confucius asked, "What is Zhuowang?" Yan Hui replied, "I have paralyzed my limbs, shut off my senses, made my torso disappear, abandoned my intellect, and merged with the universe. That is Zhuowang." Confucius said, "When everything becomes one, distinctions between good and bad disappear, and one can let go of permanent attachments. You have truly become a wise person. I want to follow in your footsteps." According to the above descriptions of Zhuowang, we can clearly see that the ancient sages not only achieved enlightenment through meditation, but also reached a very deep level of awake sleep. Perhaps, paralysis of the limbs, and closing of the senses, can be understood by beginners who have practiced meditation for 1,000 hours or more, but disappearance of the body, cessation of thought, or abundance of intellect require more time and patience. These phenomena only occur when the body enters a deeper sleep state, and the sensory nerves and motor nerves are completely shut down. When the body disappears, you lose the sense of space. When thought stops, you lose the sense of time. When both of them happen, you experience a wonderful feeling of transcending time and space, as if merging with the universe. As for what kind of philosophical reflections and religious perceptions can arise in that unity of heaven and humanity, for example, Taoist effortlessness and purity, Buddhist impermanence and selflessness, Confucian benevolence and righteousness, etc., they vary from person to person and are beyond the scope of this book. However, as Confucius said, when everything becomes one, distinctions between good and bad disappear. Thus, I believe that most of those philosophical and religious reflections and perceptions do not fundamentally contradict each other. Even when some of them appear to be in conflict, there is nothing right or wrong, deep or shallow, about them. In modern times, with the spread of Western culture to the East, Western thought and Eastern wisdom collided between two Easterners. One was Hu Shi, an important figure in modern Chinese intellectual and academic history. Hu's academic interests were extremely wide-ranging, including the Zen culture of Buddhism. His contributions to the study of Zen Buddhism focused on two aspects: a rigorous examination of Zen Buddhism's history, and the sorting and summarizing of Zen Buddhist thought. The other important figure was D.T. Suzuki, a Japanese cultural communicator who brought Zen to the West. Due to his promotion of Zen studies, the Western world began to take an interest in Buddhism, which also stimulated a renewed interest in Buddhism among Easterners. Suzuki's greatest contribution to Zen studies was editing and translating Zen Buddhist works and, in his own works, linking Zen to science and mysticism, thus arousing a widespread interest in Zen studies in the Western world, where he is known as the Zen master of the world. In the 20th century, both Hu and Suzuki were renowned masters in Zen literature and philosophy, and corresponded with each other. However, in later years, they had a dispute. The reason was that, based on his research, Hu discovered a lot of falsification in the history of Zen. 90% or even 95% of Zen, he said, is nonsense, forgery, fraud, embellishment, and pretension. These words may be harsh, but they are my honest opinion. In response to Hu's criticism, Suzuki argued that Hu was merely an historian and could only understand Zen from an historical background, knowing nothing about Zen itself. Suzuki emphasized that an historian of Zen must first have an inner appreciation of Zen's spirit before making an objective analysis of Zen's history. Although Hu knows a lot about history, he said, he knows nothing about the actors behind history, so his study of Zen history is just a pile of fragments after history is dismantled. In this long-standing debate, who believed that it was all about the difference between religious faith and scientific methods. In a letter to a friend in his later years, he explained, most Japanese scholars are followers who use modern scientific methods to study, of course, with limitations and incompleteness. For example, my old friend D.T. Suzuki can criticize Pure Land Buddhism, but he cannot accept my view on the fake history of Zen. On the other hand, Suzuki always believed that who had never participated in Zen, so he didn't understand it, because the life of Zen begins with enlightenment. Suzuki also believed that, in the history of Zen, there must be some necessity of weaving imagination and fact together. In addition, enlightenment can be explained as a kind of intuitive insight into the nature of things, which is completely opposite to analysis or logical understanding. Suzuki also believed that Zen is an actual, personal experience, not knowledge that can be obtained through analytical or comparative methods. From this debate, it can be seen that rather than a clash between Hu and Suzuki, there was a clash between Western and Eastern thought. Hu, representing Western thought, followed reason and logic, analysis and comparison. His principle can be simply summarized in 4 words: show me the evidence. On the other hand, Suzuki defended Eastern wisdom, which follows intuition and experience, imagination and inspiration. To him, Zen was a kind of wisdom and a way to liberate the intellect. Leaving some things unsaid has great significance in obtaining Eastern wisdom. Suzuki criticized Hu for not understanding Zen, which essentially means that Hu had no experience with meditation. On the other hand, Hu criticized Japanese scholars as mere followers, which essentially means that although they had insights from their experience of meditation, they did not truly understand the biological nature of those experiences. Therefore, they overestimated the mystery and sacredness of those experiences and were unable or unwilling to separate imaginary elements from facts. Conversely, if Hu had had some experience with meditation, his views on Zen and Zen history might be significantly different. On the other hand, if Suzuki had had a better understanding of the biological essence of meditation, he could have faced the falsification of Zen history more calmly and directly. Hegel once said, "The history of philosophy is philosophy itself," and perhaps we can say, the way of attaining Eastern wisdom is wisdom itself. That is because the way to attain Eastern wisdom is to meditate, and without the experience of meditation, it is difficult to truly understand Eastern thought and wisdom, at least, to understand their origins and context. That is also why Hegel said, Eastern thought must be excluded from the history of philosophy, because he did not know the origins or comprehend the context of Eastern wisdom. In fact, that origin is not obscure or mystical, because it is Wo Wang, it is Xin Zhai, it is awake sleep, it is just sitting. The Essence of Meditation. Chapter 9, The Ultimate Method. In the preface, I stated that, the main purpose of this book is to discuss the essence of meditation, not to teach specific methods or techniques for practicing it. However, there are still readers who continuously ask if I can recommend some good meditation methods. It seems that some people feel that this book is incomplete without such content. I didn't originally plan to provide such content, because there are countless meditation methods, which can fill many books all by themselves. Also, there are already numerous books and articles available on meditation methods, so unless I invented totally new methods, I would only end up repeating the descriptions of other writers. Unfortunately, so far, I have not invented any new methods. In fact, even if I could invent some new method, it seems unnecessary because by carefully observing the methods that have already been invented, you can easily find their common goal, which is to enable your body to remain still. In other words, maintaining stillness is the first and only element of meditation, and all methods revolve around that element. Among those various meditation methods, observing the breath may be the simplest and easiest to learn. However, even with such a simple method, there are many different variations. For example, some teachers recommend observing the flow of air in and out of the nostrils, some others recommend observing the movement of the air up and down the respiratory tract, and still others recommend observing the rise and fall of the abdomen with each breath. It seems that the focal point of the observation is not particularly important for observing the breath. I can even boldly guess that the observation itself is optional. In other words, whether you observe your breath or not is not the ultimate goal, which is nothing more than to keep your body still. So, why do we have so many methods? The reason is that if you tell people that meditation is just about doing nothing, and all they need to do is keep their bodies still, you will be considered a fraud, crazy, or foolish. After all, most people believe that any significant achievement can only be gained through considerable effort, and there is nothing in this world that can be achieved by doing nothing. Moreover, even if people believe in you, how long can they sit quietly and do nothing? You still have to tell them to do something while sitting there. Therefore, the more complex and profound the method, the more people it will attract. From that point of view, although those methods are not the ultimate methods, they are practical and indispensable, convenient methods, for the general public. Understanding the ultimate method of meditation, which is to keep the body still, as well as the various, convenient methods, derived from it, can resolve much confusion about meditation methods, making everything clear. For example, a common question asked by beginners is whether or not they should empty their minds during meditation and not think about anything. The answer is no, because whether you think or not, intensely or randomly, has no effect on keeping your body still. Your unconscious brain activates the sleep mode of the body only when it detects no movement of the skeletal muscles, regardless of whether your conscious brain is still awake and thinking. In fact, as the body falls deeper and deeper into sleep, you will have fewer and fewer thoughts, and you will eventually reach a state where there are no thoughts at all. But that is the automatic result of meditation, not its intended goal, so don't get them confused. In fact, there are many examples of this kind of reverse causality in practicing meditation. For example, pranayama, or breath control, is the yogic practice that is achieved by adjusting the speed, length, and interval of breathing to make the breath more even, with the meditator eventually reaching a state where the breath almost stops. In addition, a belly breathing technique, which involves moving the diaphragm up and down between the chest and abdomen to reduce chest movement, is often used in conjunction with pranayama. Actually, those changes in breathing are all automatic results of reaching a certain depth of meditation, and there is no need to practice them in advance. Such practices can often be a distraction for beginners. If the practices are forced on them, they may cause more and more chaos, until the beginners reach a point where they can't breathe smoothly at all and must start all over again. In the East, many people believe that meditation is about eliminating distracting thoughts and being focused, so they emphasize focus, focus, focus. However, too much focus can actually make you tense and exhausted. In the West, many people meditate to find peace and relaxation, so they emphasize relax, relax, relax. But when you can't find the feeling of relaxation, anxiety and restlessness can arise. In fact, both focus and relaxation are the automatic results of meditation, not its intended goals. Also, mindfulness, being present, living in the moment, and so on, are all the automatic results of meditation. That is because, in the highest stage of meditation, your thinking stops, and you naturally don't recall the past or imagine the future. At that moment, your consciousness is crystal clear, and your attention is fully focused on all the sensations and feelings inside. You are truly living in the present moment. In addition, many concepts created through the imagination, such as chi, dantian, chakras, meridians, and so on, have emerged among the various meditation methods. From a scientific perspective, most of these concepts can be classified as nonsense, because modern medicine has confirmed that they do not exist. However, for those meditators who experience those concepts in meditation, they must believe, like D.T. Suzuki, that there is a necessity of weaving imagination and fact together. Nevertheless, imagination is sometimes necessary because it can help us to achieve better results with less effort. For example, anyone who has studied geometry knows that imaginary auxiliary lines are often used to prove geometric theorems. In the realm of meditation, those imagined concepts are just like the auxiliary lines in geometry, used simply to help us find the truth easily. It is worth noting that in geometric proofs, when you add those auxiliary lines, you must use dashed lines to distinguish them from the solid lines that actually exist. Similarly, you should adopt the same attitude toward those imagined concepts that are created for the sake of certain convenient methods for meditating. If you are unwilling or unable to distinguish between imaginary and real concepts or even believe in more mystical illusions, such as divine vision, past lives, reincarnation, and various supernatural powers, or paranormal abilities, that can lead to embellishment and pretension at best, and forgery or fraud at worst. To quote Dr. Hushi, these words may be harsh, but they are my honest opinion. As you may already know, the fundamental reason for the emergence of these fantasies and illusions in meditation is merely the result of changes in the human nervous system that occur when the body sleeps. I have already discussed that extensively in the previous chapters, so I won't repeat that discussion here. It is said that during the decades in which Buddha spread his teachings, he preached a total of 84,000 Dharma methods to benefit every individual, in order to remedy the 84,000 different afflictions. As for meditation methods, even if there are not nearly so many, there are enough for all meditators to find the most suitable method for them through continuous experimentation. Any method that can keep them sitting or keep their bodies still is good and worth trying, because keeping the body still is the most crucial element of meditation. And since keeping still is really doing nothing, the ultimate method of meditation is also doing nothing. Vladimir Horowitz, who was born in Kiev, Ukraine, won 25 Grammy Awards in his lifetime and is considered one of the greatest pianists in history. He was known for his superb technique, tone, and performance effects. Horowitz often said, "Playing the piano is the easiest thing in the world." Although that may just be the humor of a master, I still want to express my disagreement. I don't play the piano and don't know how easy or difficult it is to play, but I know for sure that what Horowitz said is definitely wrong because meditation is the easiest thing in the world. I am not saying that because I call myself a meditation master, but because I cannot think of anything easier in the world than doing nothing. Ask yourself if there is anything in the world that is easier than that. If not, what are you waiting for? Start your meditation practice now. The Essence of Meditation. Chapter 10, Techniques and Tips. In the previous chapter, I pointed out that the ultimate method of meditation is to maintain the stillness of the body, and all other methods are convenient methods that revolve around the ultimate method. Among various convenient methods, each one has its own set of rules and techniques, which are condensed from the wisdom and efforts of our predecessors. However, the techniques we are going to discuss here are not some special techniques of a particular convenient method, but general techniques that apply to the ultimate method. In other words, what we are going to discuss is how to better maintain stillness, or how to maintain stillness for a longer period of time. In physics, the stability of an object is related to its center of gravity and the area of its base. When the base area is constant, the lower the center of gravity, the more stable it is. When the center of gravity is constant, the larger the base area, the more stable it is. When we sit in meditation, the height of the center of gravity has been determined, so the area of the base becomes the determining factor of body stability. Taking the cross-legged sitting posture as an example, the most common postures are easy pose, half lotus, and full lotus. Full lotus sitting refers to the sitting posture where both feet are placed on the thighs of the opposite side, legs crossed, and soles facing upward. When you sit in the full lotus position, your legs are crossed and pressed together, which forms a very stable structure that is unlikely to wobble. Moreover, both of your knees are fully supported on the ground, and if you connect the points where the two knees and the hips touch the ground, you form a base that is close to an equilateral triangle. When you sit in the easy pose, both your feet are on the ground, while both your knees are suspended in the air. If you connect the points where your feet touch the ground and where your hips touch the ground, you form an isosceles triangle as the base. When most people sit in the easy pose, their feet generally fall within the equilateral triangle of the full lotus position. Therefore, the base of the isosceles triangle formed by the easy pose naturally falls entirely within the equilateral triangle formed by the full lotus position. In half lotus sitting, you place the top of one foot against the opposite thigh, while the other foot is on the ground. In other words, one foot and one knee are touching the ground. If you connect the point where that foot touches the ground with the point where the knee touches the ground and the point where the hips touch the ground, you form an ordinary triangle between the equilateral triangle formed by the full lotus position and the isosceles triangle formed by the easy pose position. It can be seen that the base area of the full lotus position is the largest, the base area of the easy pose position is the smallest, and the base area of the half lotus position is in between. In other words, the full lotus position is the most stable, followed by the half lotus position, while the easy pose position is the least stable. However, both the full lotus and the half lotus positions require high flexibility and are not suitable for everyone. For individuals who can only sit in the easy pose position, not only is the base area the smallest, but also their legs are often entirely suspended in the air, which is extremely unstable. However, a remedial solution is to insert two small sponges between the feet and the legs to significantly improve the stability of the legs as well as the body. The postures of the lower and upper body are equally important. For example, chest in and back straight is a very useful technique that not only increases the stability of the upper body, but also helps to alleviate shoulder and back pain that may arise during meditation. Back straight means to stretch and expand the muscles of the back, lengthening the spine from top to bottom, which is relatively easy to understand. However, chest in is not so easy to understand. Clearly, it is neither chest out nor hunchback, but a posture in which both shoulders are slightly pulled forward and inward, somewhat like what is commonly known as shoulder shrugging, only with the shoulders pulled forward instead of upward. You may find the chest in posture strange. In fact, chest in and back straight, like breath control, and belly breathing mentioned in Chapter 9, are all automatic results of reaching a certain depth of meditation. However, since chest in and back straight can occur unconsciously once one has practiced meditation for a while, it can be seen as another example of reverse causality. Nevertheless, sometimes reverse causality can be beneficial if it is used properly. For example, even if you have not yet experienced that spontaneous phenomenon in meditation, consciously practicing chest in and back straight during meditation can be a quick and effective remedy for preventing or reducing shoulder and back pain. So, how can chest in and back straight address shoulder and back pain problems? The reason is that it is the most relaxed posture for your upper body. In fact, it is very similar to the curled-up position you adopt when you sleep. That is why most people prefer to sleep on their side, rather than lying on their back for most of the night. That is also why most of the ancient lying meditation methods were performed in the side-lying position, rather than on the back. In addition, when you sit in meditation, you usually cross your hands and place them in front of your lower abdomen or on your legs or knees, instead of on both sides of your body. You do that in order to allow both shoulders to naturally move slightly forward and inward, forming the posture of chest in and back straight. For the same reason, when you do standing meditation, known as Zhanzhuang in Chinese, you often hold your hands in a ball-holding posture in front of your chest. In summary, chest in and back straight is not only a technique for sitting meditation, but also for standing meditation, Tai Chi, and many other martial arts. And the purpose of chest in and back straight is to allow your body, especially your upper body, to be in the most natural, relaxed, and energy-efficient position. As mentioned in Chapter 6, 1,000 hours, meditating in short and frequent sessions is a practical approach for beginners. However, for those who have already meditated for hundreds of hours, gradually extending the duration of each meditation session is key to improving meditation efficiency. That is because each time you meditate, you need to go through a warm-up period before entering a deeper state. The length of that warm-up period may vary for each person as he or she progresses through the different levels of meditation. To accurately measure your exact warm-up time, you can use the sleep monitoring function of a smartwatch or smart bracelet. For example, your smartwatch may show that it always takes 20 minutes for you to transition from light sleep to deep sleep during each meditation session. That means that if you meditate for half an hour each time, you will only get 10 minutes of deep sleep, and if you meditate twice a day for half an hour each time, you will accumulate 20 minutes of deep sleep, but if you meditate for an hour each time, even if you only meditate once a day, you can get 40 minutes of deep sleep. In other words, spending the same amount of time, an hour of continuous meditation can get twice as much deep sleep as 2 separate half hours of meditation. Many studies have shown that the benefits of deep sleep far outweigh those of light sleep, which is the secret to improving the efficiency of meditation by extending the meditation time of each session. So, is it better to meditate for as long as you can in each session? The answer is no, because maintaining any posture for an extended period of time can potentially harm your body. Taking the difficult full lotus position as an example, the position puts destructive pressure on the hip joints due to the outward rotation of those joints. Furthermore, the knee joint is twisted to an extreme degree, causing the patella to be squeezed to its limit, and the blood vessels that supply the knee joint are compressed, cutting off the blood supply. Additionally, the tibia is rotated, which forcefully rotates the knee joint, causing destructive pressure on it. Moreover, when you place your feet on your legs in the lotus position, you are rotating and squeezing your ankle joints and feet, which may injure them. Also, the pressure on the leg muscles and blood vessels in the lotus position hinders blood circulation, reducing or even blocking the blood supply to the leg joints and muscles. Compared to the full lotus position, the half lotus and the easy pose positions exert much less pressure on your body. However, even the seemingly harmless easy pose position can still cause a certain degree of twisting in the knee joint. As a matter of fact, it is not advisable to maintain for long periods of time any posture that puts excessive pressure on the muscles, blood vessels, bones, or joints. So, how do you meditate for long periods of time without harming yourself? The answer is that you should constantly try different methods and postures. In addition to sitting meditation, you can also meditate while standing, lying down, or kneeling. And you don't have to sit on the ground, you could sit more comfortably in a chair or on a couch. The ultimate goal of trying different methods is to fully integrate meditation into your daily life, meditating at any time, in any place, and in any posture. Perhaps you may think that meditating at any time, in any place, or in any posture is impossible. However, if you truly understand the essence of meditation, which is to keep the mind awake while allowing the body to sleep, and the way to let the body sleep is to keep it still, you know that it is not a mission impossible at all. In fact, as explained in Chapter 7, even uniform linear motion or slow non-uniform motion can also be meditation, which can lead your mind to a peaceful and stable state. Actually, that is the ultimate goal of meditation, because meditation is not about pursuing fantastic feelings or even the so-called unity of heaven and humanity, but about allowing your mind to always stay calm in beautiful and eternal moments. Finally, let us end with a joke. Once there were two smokers who were attending a meditation course with a master, and they both wanted to know if they could smoke during meditation. One of the smokers approached the master and respectfully asked, "Master, can I smoke while I meditate?" The master replied, "Of course not. Meditation requires focus. You cannot be distracted." When that smoker told the other smoker about the master's answer, the second smoker was not happy and came up with an idea. The next day, he went to the master and respectfully asked, "Master, can I meditate while I smoke?" The master replied, "Of course, if you can practice meditation even when you are smoking, that is wonderful." The Essence of Meditation. Chapter 11. Human Hibernation. At the beginning of this book, I proposed a bold hypothesis, that the biological nature of meditation is to keep the mind awake, while letting the body fall asleep. In other words, meditation is sleep. It is awake sleep. It is sleeping with consciousness. With that in mind, it is not difficult to understand that all of those fantastical sensations that arise during meditation are just due to the changes in the body after it falls asleep. I have already spent a great deal of time explaining that in the previous chapters, so I will not repeat it here. However, some readers still have objections. For example, although both meditation and sleep can lower the heart rate and slow down breathing, it seems that in meditation, the heart and breathing rates are even lower than those during normal sleep. Furthermore, there are legends about some Buddhist monks who can almost completely stop their heartbeats and breathing after they have reached the deepest levels of meditation. How is that possible? To uncover that mystery, we need to start with the hibernation of animals. In the minds of most people, hibernation is seen as a way for certain animals to escape the harsh cold and food scarcity of winter, when they sleep for extended periods in their burrows. However, apart from the obvious difference in duration, months versus hours, hibernation and sleep also have fundamental internal distinctions. For example, hibernating hedgehogs are known for sleeping deeply, to the point where some species appear almost lifeless, and they won't wake up even if people handle them. Among carnivorous animals, only bears hibernate, but their sleep is not very deep. Compared to other animals, bears experience only a slight decrease in body temperature and breathing rate during hibernation, and they can wake up at any time. Nevertheless, bear hibernation is still quite different from regular sleep. For instance, the heart rate of black bears typically ranges from 40 to 50 beats per minute, (BPM), while awake, but drops to around 8 BPM during hibernation, allowing them to go without eating or drinking for over 100 days. Thus, the true significance of hibernation for animals is to minimize both their internal and external life activities, reducing their energy consumption to the minimum necessary for them to survive during harsh environmental conditions. How slow can the clock of life go during animal hibernation? The answer is truly remarkable. For example, North American box turtles have a heart that beats only once every 5 to 10 minutes during hibernation. Even more astonishingly, they hardly breathe at all, relying on their skin to absorb the minimal necessary amounts of oxygen. Besides breathing, the vital signs of hibernating animals, such as body temperature and heart rate, drop to extremely low levels. Their metabolic rate becomes incredibly slow, almost reaching the thresholds of shock and death. That fundamental difference from sleep sets hibernation apart. Today, hibernation is a hot research topic at the forefront of science because it not only is a survival strategy for coping with harsh conditions, but it also has implications for lifespan. Generally, the lifespan of mammals is positively correlated with their body size. Smaller animals have faster metabolisms and shorter lifespans, while larger animals have slower metabolisms and longer lifespans. For example, elephants can live up to 80 years, while rabbits are considered long-lived if they reach 7 or 8 years. However, bats defy this pattern. Comparing hibernating horseshoe bats with non-hibernating mice of similar body size, the former can live over 30 years, while the latter only live for 3 or 4 years. Even within the same species, those individuals that live in cold regions hibernate and have much longer lifespans than their non-hibernating counterparts in warmer areas. Although it is clear that hibernation is related to lifespan, bats and bears are quite different from humans. However, there was a groundbreaking discovery in 2004 that stunned the scientific community: a type of monkey that hibernates. That is the fat-tailed dwarf lemur, which lives on the island of Madagascar, where the temperature drops to its lowest point of the year between June and July, which coincides with the start of the dry season. From June to January, fat-tailed dwarf lemurs hibernate, sleeping for up to 7 months, usually waking up at the beginning of the following year. Throughout the dry season, they rely on the fat stored in their tails for sustenance, and by the end of hibernation, their body weight can be half of its original. Like humans, monkeys belong to the primate family, with high genetic similarity. If monkeys can hibernate, it suggests that humans might also be capable of it. Scientists are now diligently investigating the mysteries of hibernation. If we can fully understand the technology of hibernation and lower our metabolic rates to hibernation levels during regular sleep, our lifespan could potentially double or even triple with relative ease. In fact, it is quite possible that human beings have hibernation genes that have existed for a very long time. While modern humans do not naturally hibernate, there have been instances when individuals have exhibited states similar to hibernation under certain unexpected circumstances. For example, in 1999, a 29-year-old female skier named Anna Bagenholm accidentally fell into icy water in Norway and was submerged for over an hour. When Anna was rescued, she showed no signs of a heartbeat or breathing, and her body temperature had dropped to 14 degrees Celsius, or 57 degrees Fahrenheit, a state considered medically dead. However, she was miraculously resurrected at the hospital. Another case even closer to hibernation occurred in October 2006 when a 35-year-old Japanese man named Mitsutaka Uchikoshi was found in the wilderness after being in a coma for 24 days on the cold ground, with his body temperature dropping to 22 degrees Celsius, or 72 degrees Fahrenheit, and both his pulse and breathing having ceased. However, he astonishingly regained consciousness after being transported to the hospital, and no brain damage was detected after his recovery. While these cases cannot prove that human beings possess the ability to hibernate, they do suggest that humans might have this potential. Some scientists even believe that all mammals may have this potential, but gradually forgot this ability over the course of long evolutionary periods. Indeed, humans can be induced into a state similar to hibernation through a technique known as therapeutic hypothermia, or targeted temperature management. This technique has critical applications in treating medical emergencies such as cardiac arrest and brain injury. Cardiac arrest, which occurs when the heart suddenly stops beating, has a high mortality rate. Even if the person survives, just a few minutes of severe brain ischemia, lack of blood flow, usually leads to irreversible brain damage. However, by promptly inducing patients into an artificial hibernation-like state, it is possible to slow down the injury and buy time for further treatment. Clinical practice has demonstrated that this method can increase the survival rate of emergency patients and reduce the risk of neurological damage. In 2013, this technique was even applied to treat the brain injury of the renowned Formula One driver Michael Schumacher. The technology of inducing artificial hibernation not only has life-saving potential, but also could shape and extend the future of humanity. In many science fiction books and films, astronauts are placed in hibernation to prolong their lifespan during years-long interstellar journeys, which reduces resource consumption and spacecraft load, and, more importantly, allows the astronauts to arrive at their destination at a still relatively young age. Currently, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, and the European Space Agency, ESA, are both researching space-applicable hibernation techniques for crewed missions to Mars and future interstellar colonization. However, this form of human hibernation is still in the experimental stages and has not gained universal acceptance in the scientific community. Many scientists believe that it contradicts the laws of physics, chemistry, and biology. Moreover, many countries either prohibit or restrict the use of human cryonics, and even where it is allowed, it is typically limited to bodies that have been declared medically dead. While we can understand that people facing terminal illnesses might view cryonics as a last-ditch effort to extend life, there are still many challenges associated with this technology. For instance, the high-concentration cryoprotectants used in tissue preservation can poison cells, despite preserving tissue integrity. Also, there are potential risks and unknowns associated with the thawing process in cryonics, and the reconstruction of the human body is a monumental undertaking that would require nanomedical technologies operating at the molecular level. Moreover, the fundamental question remains whether memory and consciousness can be repaired solely by restoring neural structures. Even if a neural structure is well preserved, it remains a mystery whether memory and consciousness can be restored solely by neural reconstruction. Therefore, while cryonics is an intriguing concept, it still faces significant scientific and practical challenges. So, is there a safer and more reliable way to induce a hibernation-like state in humans? The answer is yes, and that method is meditation. In meditation, you maintain stillness in your body so that its built-in sensors cannot detect any muscle movement. With enough time and practice, your brain, or more accurately, your unconscious brain, mistakenly believes that you have fallen asleep. Then it will gradually shut down both your motor and sensory nerves, inhibiting your sympathetic nerves while stimulating your parasympathetic nerves. That ultimately leads your body into a completely relaxed state of sleep. At that point, if you continue to maintain your stillness, your unconscious brain will mistakenly believe that you have entered an even more extreme dormant state. Then it will activate the hibernation genes that have been dormant for millions of years. That process further lowers vital signs such as respiration, body temperature, heart rate, and metabolic rate to extremely low levels, even approaching a state of shock or death. With this in mind, you will understand that the legend of Buddha, who continually meditated under a Bodhi tree for 7 days and 7 nights before achieving enlightenment and entering nirvana, is not beyond the realm of possibility. You will also understand the miraculous rescue of 12 members of a youth soccer team and their coach in a cave in Thailand in 2018. After being trapped by floodwaters, they reduced their energy consumption by meditating, and were successfully rescued after more than 2 weeks of being stranded in dire conditions. Moreover, if one of the prerequisites for future interstellar migration is requiring applicants to learn meditation, it should not come as a surprise. Thus, we can redefine the biological nature of meditation as keeping the mind awake while allowing the body to fall asleep, or even enter a hibernation-like state. The Essence of Meditation. Chapter 12. The Science of Meditation. When I first began compiling my articles on meditation into a book, I decided to name it The Essence of Meditation. That was because the main purpose of this book is to discuss the biological essence of meditation, which is exactly what I am attempting to uncover here. However, when I shared the initial draft of the book with some readers, I received a response from Dr. Stephen Sloman, a psychology professor at Brown University, who said, "I enjoyed your book. It's a very interesting perspective on meditation. It feels nicely scientific and concrete. However, I don't like the title of the book because I'm not much of a believer in essences. Since most of the claims you make in the book are hypotheses and theories, rather than facts, why not call your book The Science of Meditation?" I believe that most readers would find themselves somewhat puzzled by this comment. If I acknowledge that most claims in the book are hypotheses and theories, rather than facts, then the original title, The Essence of Meditation, does indeed seem somewhat inappropriate. But even if I were to consider a title change, would a new title such as the Hypotheses of Meditation or the Theories of Meditation be more appropriate than the Science of Meditation? That is because, for most people, science is synonymous with facts and truth. In everyday life, we often hear people say, "That's not scientific," by which they mean that something is incorrect. However, that might actually be one of our biggest misunderstandings about science. Karl Popper, hailed as one of the greatest philosophers of the 20th century, argued that scientific theories or propositions cannot be proven true, but can only be falsified. He further pointed out that only theories or propositions that can be falsified are scientific, while those that cannot be falsified are non-scientific. In other words, the criterion for distinguishing between science and non-science is falsifiability. One classic example of Popper's argument is the white swan hypothesis. Before the discovery of black swans, although people had only seen white swans, they could not confirm the hypothesis that all swans are white. However, that did not prevent that proposition from being a scientific hypothesis, because the discovery of a swan of any different color would easily falsify that hypothesis. Of course, after the discovery of black swans, one could propose a new hypothesis that all swans are either white or black. Similarly, until swans of colors other than white and black are found, that new hypothesis would be scientific. However, statements like, "There are golden swans in the world," are considered non-scientific because they can never be proved wrong, that is, falsified. Popper's theory can indeed help us to effectively distinguish between science and non-science. It also offers an important insight: science does not equal truth. In other words, something being scientific does not guarantee its correctness, and conversely, something being non-scientific does not necessarily guarantee its incorrectness. For example, if someone dreams of golden swans and firmly believes that there must be golden swans in the world, that does not necessarily make that person wrong, but the belief is non-scientific. As a matter of fact, many human activities are non-scientific, such as religion, art, and philosophy. While those activities cannot be falsified, the way scientific hypotheses can, they also cannot be labeled as wrong. For instance, people would not say that Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa is wrong just because it's a work of art and not a scientific fact. To determine whether the hypotheses and theories presented in this book are scientific or non-scientific, let's apply Popper's criterion to them. The first, most important, and boldest hypothesis that I propose in this book is that the biological nature of meditation keeps the mind awake, while letting the body fall asleep. In other words, meditation is sleep. It is awake sleep. It is sleeping with consciousness. To confirm that meditation is sleep, we would need to measure all known physical variables in the body, such as heart rate, and all known chemical variables in the body, such as hormone secretion levels, and compare their changes during meditation and sleep to see if they align. Even if one could find that all these known variables have matching values in meditation and sleep, one still could not conclusively state that meditation is the same as sleep. That is because the human body is a supercomplex system with an enormous number of physical and chemical variables, with new variables constantly emerging as science progresses. In other words, one can never be certain that one has comprehensively identified and validated all physiological variables in the human body. If it is impossible to prove that meditation is sleep, it is relatively easy to falsify that hypothesis. If any physical or chemical variable in the body behaves differently during meditation than during sleep, one can conclude that meditation is not the same as sleep. For example, as mentioned in the previous chapter, human hibernation, while both meditation and sleep can lower heart rate and slow breathing, the heart rate and breathing rate during extremely deep meditation can become even lower than during regular sleep. Thus, merely based on the differences in these two variables, one can easily refute the hypothesis that meditation is the same as sleep. That is precisely why, in the previous chapter, I redefined the biological nature of meditation as keeping the mind awake while allowing the body to fall asleep, or even enter a hibernation-like state. Another important theory presented in this book is that the specific method for achieving meditation is to maintain stillness in the body, so that the body's built-in sensors cannot detect any muscle movement. With enough time and practice, one's brain, or more accurately, one's unconscious brain, mistakenly believing that one has fallen asleep, will gradually shut down both one's motor and sensory nerves, inhibiting the sympathetic nerves while stimulating the parasympathetic nerves. That ultimately leads one's body into a completely relaxed state of sleep. However, that theory could easily be falsified if any method were discovered that allows meditation through movement instead of stillness. In fact, in the chapter entitled Stillness and Movement, I used the example of walking meditation to falsify the earlier theory that the only way to achieve meditation is to maintain stillness in the body. Instead, I proposed a modified version of that theory, which suggests that the sensors in the body, like the sensors in smartwatches, are actually acceleration sensors, which measure change of speed, not velocity sensors, which only measure speed. That is to say, stillness and uniform linear motion are the same for those sensors, because their acceleration is zero. That explains why uniform linear motion, like walking meditation, and stillness have the same effect, since one's unconscious brain mistakenly thinks that one is asleep because it cannot detect any acceleration of one's muscles and thus lets one's body go into a sleep state. Furthermore, the new theory that human sensors measure acceleration rather than velocity also suggests that the sensors in the human body are not highly sensitive. That means that so long as the acceleration of body movements is kept within a small range, even nonlinear or non-uniform linear movements may cause one's unconscious brain to mistakenly assume that one is asleep, because it cannot detect sufficient acceleration. From that new theory, we can draw the conclusion that practices like Tai Chi or Qigong, so long as they are practiced slowly, can achieve the effect of meditation. Or, to make the point more bluntly, Tai Chi and Qigong are essentially forms of meditation. Additionally, in the chapter, The Ultimate Method, I pointed out that we can enter meditation solely by keeping the body still, and that the various elaborate meditation methods, such as observing the breath, thoughts, sensations, etc., are not necessary. The only purpose of those methods is to help us maintain bodily stillness. So, how can the theory that we can enter meditation solely by keeping the body still be falsified? That's quite simple. We could conduct a survey of the guards stationed at palaces or military posts who have cumulatively stood guard for over 1,000 hours, to see how many of them have spontaneously entered a state of complete bodily relaxation, which is characteristic of meditation. In theory, if even one guard fails to enter that state spontaneously, the theory would be falsified. However, since the requirement of 1,000 hours to enter meditation is itself hypothetical, we could tolerate a small percentage of guards who do not enter the meditative state. As we can see from the discussion above, all the hypotheses and theories presented in this book remain unverified, and can never be verified. However, each one of them can easily be falsified. In other words, I cannot guarantee the correctness of every hypothesis and theory in this book, but I can guarantee that each one is scientific. Therefore, I have decided to accept the suggestion made by Professor Sloman to change the title of this book to The Science of Meditation. The Science of Meditation. Chapter 13. Research on Meditation. After sharing the initial draft of this book with some of my readers, I received a long reply from Dr. Heather Redd, a professor of psychology at the University of Connecticut. In her reply, Dr. Redd provided a comprehensive summary of the latest research findings that she had gathered related to the connection between meditation and sleep. However, Dr. Red noted that there are presently very few clinical trials about that subject, which is precisely why researchers in biology and psychology should investigate it. But before we delve deeper into this topic, let me first familiarize the reader with one of the most commonly used concepts and tools in neuroscientific experiments, the electroencephalogram, or EEG for short. An EEG is an electrophysiological monitoring method used to record brainwave activities, which are the electrical signals generated by the brain's approximately 100 billion neurons. To detect brainwaves, electrodes are placed on a person's scalp to pick up the brainwave signals, and a computer collects and processes the EEG data. Research has shown that the majority of rhythmic brainwave frequencies fall within a range of 1 to 30 cycles per second, or 1 to 30 Hz. Within that frequency range, brainwaves can be roughly divided into four essential kinds, from the slowest to the fastest: delta, less than 4 Hz, theta, 4 to 8 Hz, alpha, 8 to 12 Hz, and beta, 12 to 30 Hz. Brainwave frequencies change during sleep, following a specific pattern that divides sleep into several stages: N1, N2, N3, and REM, which stands for rapid eye movement. During REM sleep, one's eyes move around rapidly in a range of directions, but do not send any visual information to the brain. That doesn't happen during non-REM sleep, which includes stages N1 to N3. The N1 stage, which is the onset of sleep, is characterized by alpha brainwaves. The N2 stage, or light sleep, is dominated by theta brainwaves. The N3 stage, or deep sleep, is dominated by slow delta brainwaves. And REM is dominated by beta and even higher frequency brainwaves. The brain activity measured with EEG typically follows a cyclic pattern, with the first cycle transitioning from wake to sleep and including sleep states: wake, N1, N2, N3, N2, REM. Following the first bout of REM, there are multiple cycles that include N2, N3, N2, REM throughout the night until one wakes. Each sequence of brain activity changes transitioning from N2, N3, N2, to REM is referred to as one sleep cycle. An average human sleep cycle lasts about 90 minutes, so a typical night consists of 4 to 5 sleep cycles. Notably, during N3 or deep sleep, it is harder to wake people up if they are in this phase. Muscle tone, pulse, and breathing rate decrease during N3 sleep as the body relaxes even further. The brain activity during this period has the slowest delta waves. For that reason, N3 may also be called delta sleep, or slow-wave sleep. Scientists believe that this stage is critical to restorative sleep, allowing for bodily recovery and growth. It may also bolster the immune system and other key bodily processes. Although brain activity is reduced during this stage, there is evidence that deep sleep contributes to insightful thinking, creativity, and memory. Dentico et al. Discovered that immediately after 8 hours of intense meditation, long-term meditators exhibited significant reduction in delta brainwaves within the first 90-minute sleep cycle, compared to meditation-naive participants, i.e., individuals with little or no experience with meditation. That finding closely resembles the data presented by Dirk-Jan Dijk, which suggests that, after a daytime nap, there is a significant decrease in delta brainwaves during the following nighttime sleep, which the author calls a homeostatic phenomenon. Homeostasis is a self-regulating dynamic equilibrium process by which biological systems maintain stability while adapting to changing external conditions to support normal life processes. In other words, during daytime naps, individuals have already generated a considerable amount of delta brainwaves, so they don't need as much slow-wave sleep during the night. According to Dentico et al., meditation has a similar effect, meaning that, after meditation, individuals require less slow-wave sleep at night, which demonstrates that meditation and napping are very similar in terms of brainwave generation. Furthermore, after meditation, not only is there a reduced need for slow-wave sleep, but the overall sleep duration is also significantly decreased. Call et al. Presented detailed data which demonstrated that meditation acutely improves psychomotor vigilance and decreases the need for sleep. That finding is strikingly similar to the data presented by Dyke, which demonstrated that, after a daytime nap, slow-wave sleep and overall sleep duration both decrease, which the author explains as homeostasis, as discussed earlier. Dentico et al. Discovered that the brainwave activity of both long-term meditators and meditation-naive participants during meditation was not dependent on whether their eyes were open or closed during meditation. Nor did their brainwave activity correlate with the specific meditation techniques they used. These results align with many viewpoints already presented in this book. For example, in Chapter 9, The Ultimate Method, I pointed out that one can enter meditation solely by keeping the body still, and that the various elaborate meditation methods, such as observing one's breath, are unnecessary. The only purpose of those methods is to help meditators to maintain bodily stillness, which will eventually trick their unconscious brains into believing that they have fallen asleep. In Chapter 5, Sleep Ability, I also pointed out that whether one's eyes should be open or closed during meditation, or half open and half closed, is her or his call, but makes no difference. Although the studies discussed so far have revealed some physiological similarities between meditation and sleep, there are also clear differences between them. One distinction is that individuals can meditate while lying down, sitting, standing, or even moving, whereas people usually sleep only in a lying down position. Of course, the most significant difference is that during meditation they maintain consciousness, whereas during sleep they lose consciousness. However, there are specific situations, known as lucid dreaming, in which individuals can be aware of their dreams while they are dreaming. But lucid dreaming should not be confused with daydreaming, during which individuals enter a fantasy world while awake, whereas lucid dreaming occurs when individuals maintain awareness while asleep. During lucid dreaming, individuals have the ability to think and remember as they would when awake. Some individuals can even make their dream experiences feel as real as waking life, but still remain aware that they are dreaming. Baird, Tononi, and LaBerge discovered that lucid dreaming occurs during REM sleep, and is not simply a mixture of sleep and wakefulness. Thus, meditation and lucid dreams work in opposite ways. During lucid dreams, individuals are initially asleep, both in body and mind, as they dream, but then wake up consciously during their dreams, while their bodies are still sleeping. In meditation, on the other hand, individuals are always mentally awake, while letting their bodies sleep. In other words, lucid dreaming and meditating are almost identical in their final phase, with the mind awake and the body asleep. In fact, Nagendra, Maruthai, and Cuddy, who conducted an extensive study of research papers on meditation and its regulatory role on sleep, arrived at the following conclusion. It is evident from the literature cited that practice of meditation brings about global changes. Many of these alterations in physiological functions have great similarities to the changes that are happening during sleep. It has been proposed that sleep is an autoregulatory global phenomenon. It is also true that meditation influences sleep and its functions. It appears that various components of sleep-generating mechanisms can be altered with meditation. Meditation, with its global effects on body and brain functions, helps to establish a body and mind harmony. Thus, meditation practices as an autoregulatory integrated global phenomenon opens a wider scope for understanding the unique aspects of human sleep and consciousness. As you can see, this conclusion closely aligns with the concepts I have presented in this book. The only distinction lies in the additional step I have taken by asserting that meditation is sleep. Or more precisely, it is awake sleep. It is sleeping with consciousness. Modern studies that suggest a commonality between meditation and sleep continue to unravel the greatest mystery of human nature, the interplay between mind and body, as well as the boundary between illusion and reality. But the truth may not be as complicated as some people think, because meditation and sleep could be the same thing, or just two sides of the same coin, making their similarity one of the most intriguing scientific topics of the 21st century. The Science of Meditation. Chapter 14. The Art of Meditation. If you have made it this far in the book, you probably have a fairly clear understanding of meditation by now. However, before discussing the main topic of this chapter, which is the art of meditation, we need to address another question: what is art? Answering that seemingly simple question is more challenging than it may appear. You may be thinking that art is just something beautiful created by artists. Indeed, many beautiful creations fall into the category of art. However, upon careful reflection, you will realize that, in this world, many things that are not so beautiful, and may even be strange or ugly, are also called art. Furthermore, even for those works that are universally acknowledged as beautiful, every individual has a different notion of beauty. Thus, beauty is clearly subjective. But is there any objective measure to determine if something qualifies as art? The British philosopher Robin George Collingwood, in The Principles of Art, defined art as the expression of human emotions. Note that, according to this definition, emotions refer to sensibility, and thus do not encompass rational expression, such as is found in science, philosophy, and mathematics. For instance, Einstein's equation, E equals mc squared, like many great artistic masterpieces, possesses a profound and elegant simplicity, but we categorize it as a scientific theory, rather than as a work of art. Understanding the essence of art helps to clarify several ambiguities. For instance, if a created object makes you feel elated and inspires you to perceive beauty, it can be considered a work of art. On the other hand, if a piece evokes anger, fear, or even pain within you, it may also qualify as a work of art. That is because the essence of art lies in the expression of human emotions, which can range from positive to negative. That also explains why artists are generally emotional individuals. Although not all emotional individuals become artists, they need the desire and ability to express emotions through artistic creation. Lacking what is called artistic sensibility not only diminishes the possibility of one becoming an artist, but also restricts one's capacity to fully appreciate art. From that perspective, if we wish to become artists, or even just desire to better appreciate artistic works, we must strive to enhance our artistic sensibility, making our emotions more varied and sensitive. So, is there a specific way to enrich and refine our emotions? Absolutely, and there is more than one way to achieve that. For instance, delving into the context behind artistic works, understanding artists' intentions, and cultivating empathy for them as human beings can heighten and deepen our emotional connection, both to them and to their art. Moreover, if we vary our personal experiences, that will expose us to life's myriad flavors, thereby enabling us to experience emotions we never felt before. That in turn can facilitate a deeper connection in us with specific art forms or pieces. However, as noted earlier, emotions span a wide spectrum, from positive to negative, and may even extend to deeply distressing sentiments. The intriguing news is that there is a unique method that significantly enriches our emotions while ensuring that our experiences remain entirely positive, devoid of any negativity. What is even more extraordinary is that this method does not demand social engagement or worldly exposure. It can be effortlessly practiced while one is sitting comfortably at home. Yes, you may have guessed, that method is meditation. As I stated in Chapter 4, Emotion Zones, the essence of meditation lies in maintaining mental consciousness while allowing the body to fall asleep. That creates entirely new emotions while the body is in a sleep state. As for what those new emotions feel like, there is no one word to describe them. In fact, they have been referred to by various people with the words calmness, serenity, freedom, compassion, fraternity, and even emptiness. In Chapter 8, Wisdom of the East, I stated that Eastern wisdom comes from meditation. Or, more accurately, Eastern wisdom stems from a deep contemplation about humanity and the entire universe that emerges from the new emotional states that the meditators have never experienced before. As you can see, Eastern wisdom combines both intellect and emotion. It is a blend of philosophy and art, a perfect fusion of rationality and sensitivity. In reality, aside from purely rational expressions, such as Einstein's theory of relativity, and purely emotional expressions, such as Van Gogh's sunflowers, most creations in human history have tended to be a fusion of both. For instance, the ornate carvings on a wooden bowl made 10,000 years ago represent a blend of functionality and artistic expression. Likewise, while the internal chips and software within an iPhone represent the rational ingenuity of scientists and engineers at Apple, the phone's elegant design and user-friendly interface mainly reflect the personal emotional expression of Steve Jobs. Clearly, from the ornate wooden bowls of ancient civilizations to Steve Jobs' revolutionary iPhone, human beings have continuously blended rationality and artistic expression. Meditation not only leads to the acquisition of Eastern wisdom, but also has sparked the creation of many distinctive Eastern arts. For instance, Japanese gardens are created in accordance with Shinto and Buddhist philosophies that emphasize harmony between nature and humanity. Typically, those gardens display simple, asymmetrical layouts, dominated by carefully pruned evergreen trees. Japanese gardens incorporate bridges, rocks, stepping stones, raked gravel, stone lanterns, and other objects that foster an atmosphere that is conducive to meditation and deep reflection. The rocks, which symbolize mountains, and the meticulously raked gravel, which symbolize water, serve as aids for meditation among Japanese monks. Hence, Japanese gardens barely use any flowering plants, relying instead on static elements that are believed to induce a sense of tranquility. Even for someone who lacks experience with meditation, being in such an environment may calm the mind, although that could be the limit of that individual's perception. Conversely, the more experience one has with meditation, the more profound and colorful one's understanding becomes. Another example of an Eastern art is the Japanese tea ceremony, a tradition developed by Japanese monks who returned from studying in Tang, China, 618 to 907 AD, from which they brought back and combined the concepts of Zen and tea. The Japanese tea ceremony elevates daily life activities to a spiritual level. The core spirit of the ceremony can be summarized in 4 words, Wakasei Jaku. Wa signifies harmony between human beings and nature. K denotes mutual respect between the host and the guest, which extends to reverence for all things. Sei represents the purity of the mind that is achieved during the Zen state. Jaku encompasses tranquility and integration with nature. The tea ceremony involves strict etiquette and procedures, which help people to grasp its spiritual aspects. Apart from the act of drinking tea, the ceremony requires a specific layout for the tea room, which is decorated with relevant calligraphy and paintings. Even the teaware is carefully selected for the ceremony. In Japan, the tea ceremony is known as seido, and the person conducting the ceremony is referred to as the tea master. During the Meiji period, the artist Okakura Kikuzo, 1863–1913, stated in the Book of Tea that, the tea master strove to be something more than the artist, art itself. That statement holds a twofold significance. On the one hand, the tea masters project their inner world, which they feel during meditation, into their every action and gesture, which become the focal point of seido. The tea room, teaware, and even the tea itself serve as props in that performance art. In a sense, the tea masters may be among the earliest practitioners of performance art in the world. On the other hand, as the tea masters have become the art itself, that implies that when the masters die, the artwork vanishes with them, unlike a painting or sculpture that can endure through time. Nowadays, the Japanese meticulously preserve the traditional form of the tea ceremony, precisely because the ancient masters are no longer present. The current tea masters adhere strictly to the rules set by those ancient masters, aiming to recreate the perfect atmosphere from the past. As a result, the tea ceremony has shifted from its creative origins to become a structured ritual centered on intricate procedures. The once cherished spiritual essence of the tea ceremony, which aimed to foster equality among individuals, has also evolved into a practice that creates intentional divisions among people. Sotsu Yanagi, 1889–1961, a renowned Japanese theorist of folk crafts, boldly criticized the modern tea ceremony in his book The Beauty of Everyday Things. Most of the tea masters today, he wrote, in my opinion, lack the true essence and depth expected in the realm of Sado. Yanagi also pointed out that the primary intent of modern tea masters seems centered on showcasing their wealth, which has led tea ceremonies to lose their essence and become mere showcases for elaborate teaware. How can we ensure the preservation of this ancient refined Eastern art, protecting it against losing its essence to mere conventionality? I believe the solution lies in one straightforward and singular practice: meditation. Becoming a true tea master demands extensive and rigorous meditation practice, which is essential for attaining profound Zen experiences. Only after new emotions are experienced in deep meditation do these emotions find their fullest expression through the art form of the tea ceremony. In simpler terms, a tea master must primarily excel in meditation to achieve mastery in the tea ceremony, rather than solely focusing on mastering etiquette. In other words, the essence of the tea ceremony resides in the emotional expression that emerges from profound meditation. That essence extends to other Eastern arts that originated from the tea ceremony, including ikebana, flower arranging, kendo, Japanese swordsmanship, and kodo, the art of appreciating incense, among others. Despite their superficial differences, all these arts fundamentally stem from deep meditation and serve as various forms of emotional expression. In essence, they are all meditative arts. Of course, for most individuals, the aim of meditation is not to become a master in any particular art form, whether the tea ceremony or any other type of artistry. Hence, beyond enhancing your understanding and appreciation of Eastern arts, meditation holds a deeper significance. In Alain de Botton's book Art as Therapy, the author proposes a new way of looking at art, suggesting that it can be useful, relevant, and therapeutic. Through practical examples, he argues that certain great works of art provide clues for how to manage the tensions and confusions of modern life. His chapters on love, nature, money, and politics show how art can help with many common difficulties, from forging healthy human relationships to coming to terms with mortality. In essence, the author views art's primary role as therapeutic for the human soul. That explicitly resonates with the profound importance of meditation for humanity. Furthermore, through meditation, you surpass any individual art form. In the serenity of meditation, you face your inner self, converse with your soul, and delve into introspection, ultimately releasing the inevitable pains and traumas of life. Letting go of past emotions does not imply forgetting joy and love, and thus becoming heartless. Instead, letting go of past emotions assists in gradually releasing each sorrow, joy, pain, and pleasure, one by one, which leads to discovering inner peace. As a matter of fact, in your journey of letting go and finding peace, meditation will not only soothe your pains and traumas, but also enhance your appreciation for everything you have ever experienced and presently hold dear. Now that you have seen this, why wait any longer? Begin your meditation practice now. The Science of Meditation. Chapter 15. Religion and Philosophy. In Chapter 8, Wisdom of the East, I stated that Eastern wisdom comes from meditation. The reason for this is that most Eastern sages have been masters of meditation, who often achieved enlightenment through meditation. Furthermore, many Eastern religions have inherited this tradition, to the extent that some sects even emphasize just sitting as the essence of their spiritual practice. Nevertheless, These facts may give people the misleading impressions that meditation was invented in the East, or that meditation is exclusive to Eastern religions, neither of which is the case. For example, there are numerous references to meditation in the Old Testament, if not exactly by that name. Just as the ancient Chinese referred to meditation as Zhuo Wang, sitting forgetting, or Xin Zhai, mind fasting, the ancient Jews referred to meditation as Haga, to murmur, or by implication, to meditate, swatch/suwatch, to muse, or by implication, to contemplate, or melateo, to care for, or by implication, to imagine, or to reflect. The first person in the Old Testament who meditates is Isaac. In Genesis 24 verses 63 to 64, Isaac is practicing meditation, swatch, in a field when Rebekah, his future wife, comes to him. Also, after Moses dies, Joshua receives instructions from God to meditate on the Book of Law. In Joshua 1 verse 8, it says that, "This book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate, Haga, therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein, for then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success." King James Version. The New Testament also includes a variety of passages that call the followers of Christ to focus the mind, i.e., meditate, on God. These passages, which include Philippians 4 verses 4 to 9, Colossians 3 verses 1 to 3, Romans 8 verses 5 to 7, Hebrews 3 verse 1, and Hebrews 12 verse 2, show that a person's thoughts determine who they will become. Thus, thinking about God, God's Word, and God's ways through meditation is a critical spiritual discipline for followers of Jesus. Whether the process is called prayer, contemplation, or reflection, they all involve entering a mysterious and even sacred state of mind by keeping the body still, that is, by meditating. As I pointed out in Chapter 7, Stillness and Motion, any human activity that is achieved by maintaining stillness in the body is essentially meditation. Although meditation has been a common practice in both Eastern and Western religious traditions, Eastern practitioners, especially those from Eastern religions, have invented more meditation methods, and created more concepts and theories, thus elevating the status and role of meditation in spiritual practice to unprecedented heights. One of those Eastern theories is Zhi Guan, which divides meditation into two steps, Zhi and Guan. Literally, Zhi means to stop, and Guan means to observe. Zhi involves calming or even stopping thought to achieve a state of mental tranquility. Guan involves exploring and contemplating truth after the mind has been calmed. The goal of Zhi is more or less the same for everyone, but the goal of Guan differs for different practitioners. For example, Buddhist meditators seek to achieve selflessness or emptiness, whereas Taoist meditators seek to achieve effortlessness and purity. But even atheists can explore truth via Zhi and Guan. In fact, anyone can meditate purely to derive significant benefits for both the body and the mind, without necessarily being tied to any specific religion. Aside from connections between Western religions and meditation, there is also a relationship between Western philosophies and meditation. Although Western philosophers may not have been as involved with meditation as Eastern sages have been, many Western philosophical ideas are intricately connected to meditation. For instance, many major historical figures in philosophy have provided answers to the question of what, if anything, makes life meaningful. Arthur Schopenhauer, who is one of those philosophical figures, posited that all human actions are determined by the will to live, that is, everything we do is driven by our desires. Schopenhauer even argued that all nature, including humankind, is the expression of an insatiable will, and that it is through the will that humans find all their suffering. A constant desire for more is what causes this suffering. In The World as Will and Representation, Schopenhauer contends that, along with pain, boredom is one of two forms of suffering that we cannot avoid in life. In other words, life swings like a pendulum backward and forward between pain and boredom. When people are in emotional pain, they fill it with things to relieve the pain. But after a while, they become bored with that. Thus, Schopenhauer's understanding of the suffering in life aligns with the Buddhist concept of a universal suffering of all sentient beings. However, Schopenhauer proposed two ways to deal with that suffering. The first way that he proposed was to aesthetically contemplate art. In Chapter 14, The Art of Meditation, I stated that artistic works have a distancing effect, allowing viewers to temporarily break free from the control of desires and directly enter the so-called world of ideas, thereby achieving a transcendent state and inner peace. However, aesthetic contemplation can only provide temporary tranquility. Once one leaves the theater or art gallery or museum, one will soon be entangled once again in worldly distractions, returning to the swinging pendulum of pain and boredom. So, is there a more profound solution to this dilemma? Schopenhauer offered another more thorough method than aesthetic appreciation, namely, asceticism, which is similar to Buddhist teachings. If one recognizes people's essence as the will to live, and understands that human suffering originates from the will, which is engraved in their genes, then resisting one's will would be futile. Fortunately, the will to live cannot control people's actions directly, but does so indirectly through desires. That implies that to liberate oneself from the torment of the will, one must eliminate all desire, cutting off the intermediary link between one's will and one's actions. But how does desire relate to meditation? We know that meditation involves maintaining consciousness, while allowing the body to enter a sleep-like state. During that process, the sensory nerves gradually shut down as the body enters sleep. If, like ancient thinkers, we believe that all desires come from the senses, when hearing, seeing, smelling, tasting, and touching are shut down one by one, all desires will disappear with them. While this simplistic and straightforward view may differ from modern biology's explanations of desire, meditation undeniably reduces desire, thereby bringing inner peace, clarity of thought, and spiritual fulfillment. It is evident that Schopenhauer's proposal of asceticism is a purely rational solution to human suffering, relying entirely on reason and self-control to combat desires. Meditation, on the other hand, ingeniously sidesteps this direct confrontation with desires. By inducing the body into a sleep-like state and gradually shutting down sensory nerves, meditation naturally dissolves desires from within. As Sun Tzu said in The Art of War, the greatest victory is that which requires no battle. Another significant question in Western philosophy is how to conceive of death. Socrates proved through various arguments that the soul is immortal, meaning that it does not perish with the death of the body. But, more importantly, Socrates embodied the unity of knowledge and action, consistency in words and deeds, and teaching through personal example. Due to his firm belief in the immortality of the soul, Socrates did not fear death. Even in the last moments of his life, he engaged in philosophical conversations with his students, maintaining a light-hearted demeanor. Socrates told his students that death signifies the separation of the soul from the body, and since the soul is immortal, the death of the body might not be a bad thing for a philosopher. The union of the soul and the body, especially the desires of the body, binds the soul, subjecting it to the distortions imposed by the senses on the essence of things. Therefore, the process of acquiring rational knowledge involves striving to free oneself from the interference of the body while seeking pure truths. In Plato's Phaedo, Socrates says, "The true philosopher does nothing but practice dying and being dead." So, what is the connection between death and meditation? As I mentioned in Chapter 11, Human Hibernation, one maintains stillness in the body during meditation, so that the body's built-in sensors cannot detect any muscle movement. With enough time and practice, the brain, or more accurately, the unconscious brain, mistakenly believes that one has fallen asleep. Then it will gradually shut down both the motor and sensory nerves, inhibiting the sympathetic nerves while stimulating the parasympathetic nerves. that ultimately leads one's body into a completely relaxed state of sleep. At that point, if one continues to maintain stillness, the unconscious brain will mistakenly believe that one has entered an even more extreme dormant state. Then it will activate the hibernation genes that have been dormant for millions of years. That process further lowers vital signs such as respiration, body temperature, heart rate, and metabolic rate to extremely low levels, even approaching a state of shock or death. Thus, it is not difficult to understand why people often equate nirvana with rebirth. The biological essence of nirvana is a near-death experience, a sensation of regaining life after approaching death. Perhaps, that is what the philosopher Martin Heidegger referred to as being towards death. In Being and Time, he wrote, "If I take death into my life, acknowledge it, and face it squarely, I will free myself from the anxiety of death and the pettiness of life, and only then will I be free to become myself." Perhaps, that thought aligns with Friedrich Nietzsche's statement that what does not kill us makes us stronger. In any case, it is not difficult to comprehend why Buddhist monks can face death calmly during their passing. They view death as an old friend because they observe and experience it up close in deep meditation every day. For them, death is an intimate companion. If true philosophers, in Socrates' sense, practice dying, then meditators truly practice dying. Imagine that death is your friend. When it finally comes to take you away, you won't panic or fear. Instead, you will follow it calmly because you know it is not taking you to some strange place, but bringing you home, back to where life began. Of course, not fearing death does not mean underestimating life. On the contrary, not fearing death can make one stronger, in Nietzsche's sense, which signifies developing heightened vitality and creativity. Not fearing death means that we can more actively engage in work and life. In other words, Heidegger's being towards death is for the sake of being alive, not the other way around. Finally, consider once again the story of Socrates' death. The ancient Greek philosopher had the opportunity to escape this fate because his students could help him to escape from prison at any time. However, Socrates declined that proposal, using his death to show the world what true unity of knowledge and action is. Yet, we can't help asking if Socrates' death was really necessary. Was it truly worth it to make a philosophical point? Or we can ask a more general question. In this chaotic world, in which we face various religious beliefs, philosophical thoughts and doctrines, and an overwhelming array of scientific theories and hypotheses, including the unconventional views proposed in this book, what attitudes and principles should one hold to achieve truth? In other words, is there a possible absolute truth or eternal truth? And if such a truth exists, is it worth sacrificing one's life to defend it? In response to these questions, I would like to conclude with the words of the philosopher Bertrand Russell, "I would never die for my beliefs because I might be wrong."